My mom, seeing I'd made it through kindergarten without a girlfriend, decided to take matters into her own hands. In one fell swoop, she arranged 5 potential marriage pacts for me, decreeing that when I grew up, I would choose a fiancé from one of the 5 heiresses of the wealthy Sullivan family. When the 5 Sullivan sisters found out, they were all horrified. The photo they were shown was of a dark, chubby kid who looked like a total hick. None of them wanted to be thrown to the wolves. Just then, 3 luxury cars pulled up in front of a rundown little town called Oakhaven. 5 stunningly beautiful women stepped out, a sight that could stop traffic. The youngest, Lily Sullivan, immediately started complaining, "Ugh, I'm gonna be sick. What is this dump? It's so dirty and hot." The 4th sister, Sarah, chimed in with her own grievance. "I know, right? I can't believe Dad is letting some hick from the sticks choose one of us to marry. And on top of that, we have to personally drive him all the way to Rivorton." Displeasure was written all over their faces. If their father, Mr. Sullivan, hadn't practically made it a dying wish, they never would have set foot in a place like this. "Enough. Go knock on the door," said the eldest, Chloe. Her gorgeous face was just as clouded with annoyance as the others. Lily walked up and knocked. A full 30 minutes passed before the door finally creaked open. The man standing there had chiseled, handsome features and deep, intelligent eyes. He carried an air of nobility that seemed to surpass even their own. Lily was completely stunned. "Hi, we're looking for Ethan Hayes. Is he here?" "I'm Ethan Hayes," I said, glancing over the group before adding languidly, "Hang on a second, I'll go get my bags." As I turned to leave, they all stood there in shock. "Oh my God, he looks nothing like the picture Dad showed us." Mr. Sullivan had shown them a photo of me from when I was a teenager. They never imagined I could change so drastically in just a few years. The 2nd sister, Laura, smirked. "Got a crush? Maybe you should let him pick you." Lily spun around. "As if, who cares if he's hot? He's still just a hick. Is that right?" My cool voice drifted from behind them. "Don't worry, I wouldn't be interested in a little twig like you who hasn't even hit puberty yet." Ignoring the look on Lily's face, I grabbed my suitcase and climbed into the first car. The car I got into was being driven by the eldest sister, Chloe. It was just the 2 of us, but I didn't say a word, simply turning my head to stare out the window as a wave of emotions washed over me. My mother had left when I was just a kid, and my father and I had lived in this small town for years. 2 months ago, my father passed away from an illness, and his final wish was for me to find a good wife. I'd known for a long time about the marriage pact he'd made with his old friend, Mr. Sullivan. I had always hated the idea, but it was his last wish, so I had no choice but to agree to go to the Sullivans' home. The drive to Rivorton was silent. The car pulled up to a lavish mansion, and I followed the 5 sisters inside. A regal-looking woman was seated on the sofa. The moment they were through the door, Lily whined, "Mom, we're back. I'm exhausted." Mrs. Sullivan quickly asked the housekeeper to prepare some drinks. Then her eyes landed on me, trailing at the back of the group. She sized me up, a flicker of surprise on her face when she realized I wasn't the ugly, overweight boy from the picture, but actually quite handsome. Mrs. Sullivan's voice dripped with sarcasm. "You must be Ethan Hayes. Did you get plastic surgery just for a chance to marry into our family? You've really gone to a lot of trouble." The marriage pact had been Mr. Sullivan's idea years ago, and no one else in the family was happy about it, but he was a stubborn man. I looked at her and said calmly, "Ma'am, I haven't had any surgery." She just snorted. When she saw the butler bringing in my suitcase from the car, she commanded, "Mr. Lee, open that case and check it." My eyes hardened. "Ma'am, those are my personal belongings. Of course I know they're yours, which is precisely why they need to be checked. You're from a small town. We can't have you bringing anything dirty or dangerous into our home." With that, she gave the butler a pointed look. The 5 sisters sat casually on the couch, none of them making a move to help me. Just as Mr. Lee reached for the suitcase, I grabbed it away from him. "These are my things. Nobody touches them." Mrs. Sullivan rose to her feet, her face flushed with anger. "Ha! I knew it. You're hiding something you don't want us to see. Well, I'm going to see it today." As she spoke, 4 or 5 security guards started walking toward me. The sisters put down their phones, watching the drama unfold, clearly expecting me to panic and back down. But I remained perfectly calm. Just as the guards were about to grab my suitcase, a powerful voice boomed from the doorway. "Stop!" It was Mr. Sullivan. He hurried over to me, his face etched with concern. "Ethan, are you all right?" "I'm so sorry. I had a meeting at the office and just got back." I shook my head. "I'm fine, Mr. Sullivan." He turned to his wife. "What is the meaning of this? Ethan just arrived, and this is how you treat him." Mrs. Sullivan shot me a look of disgust. "What? I just wanted to make sure he wasn't bringing any filth into our house. With an indignant huff, Mrs. Sullivan stormed upstairs. Mr. Sullivan sighed. I'm sorry, Ethan. Your aunt seems to have some misconceptions about you. I'll clear things up with her. I just shook my head. It didn't matter. I was used to people judging me. Mr. Sullivan then addressed the entire household. Ethan will be living here from now on. I expect all of you to treat him with respect, and I will not tolerate anyone bullying him or standing by while he is bullied. The 5 sisters remained silent, all wondering the same thing. Why was their father so fond of this Ethan Hayes? After a few more pleasantries, Mr. Sullivan showed me to my room. It was spacious and bright, fully stocked with everything I could possibly need. So, Ethan, what do you think? If you don't like it, I can have it redone for you. Thank you, sir. I love it. Looking at him, I felt a mix of emotions. I'd met Mr. Sullivan many times as a child, and he had always been incredibly kind to me. It made me think of my own father, and a pang of sadness hit me. Noticing my somber expression, Mr. Sullivan patted my shoulder. You must be tired from the trip. Get some rest. I'll call you for dinner. I nodded and went back to my room to unpack my things. After dinner, Mr. Sullivan had me join him on the sofa for a chat. He handed me a platinum card. Ethan, take this. Tomorrow, have the girls show you around Riverton. Buy whatever you like. Thank you for the offer, Mr. Sullivan, but I don't need it. The words were barely out of my mouth when I noticed Mrs. Sullivan's sour expression. She spoke, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Oh, please, don't act so high and mighty. You came to our family for the money, didn't you? Eleanor, Mr. Sullivan snapped, his voice sharp with anger. She immediately shot back. Am I wrong? Why are you yelling at me? I felt a muscle in my jaw twitch. I had no idea what I'd done to make this woman hate me so much. Just then, my phone buzzed. Mr. Hayes, the company's quarterly profit was $300 million. It's been deposited into your account. I frowned. Why were they sending me more money? The day passed. When I woke up the next morning, Mr. Sullivan had already left for the office, and the 5 sisters were at the table eating breakfast. The night before, their father had instructed them to show me around Riverton today. I had just taken a seat when Chloe, the eldest, spoke in her cool tone. I have a meeting at my office today. The other 4 can take you. With that, she put down her fork, stood up, and walked out. The 3rd sister, Jessica, stood up as well. I just got called in for a performance, so I have to go too. The remaining 3 quickly made their own excuses and left. I didn't say anything, just kept eating my breakfast. That evening, my phone rang. An excited voice came through the line. Ethan, are you in Riverton? I answered coolly. What's up? You're in Riverton and you didn't tell me? I don't care. You're coming to dinner with me right now. If you don't, I'm coming to the Sullivans to get you. Half an hour later, I let the butler know I was heading out and left the mansion. After dinner with Grace Vaughn, she dragged me to an upscale bar. So, Ethan, she said, no one at the Sullivan place is giving you a hard time, are they? I swirled the drink in my glass. Who could possibly give me a hard time? Grace laughed. Good point. It's a miracle you're not giving them a hard time. Who could possibly mess with you? On the surface, he looked so calm and collected, but underneath, he was an absolute force of nature. With that thought, Grace pressed on. So, are you really going to go through with this engagement? I took a sip of my whiskey and answered nonchalantly, I don't know. I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for my dad. I'm just playing it by ear for now. We were in the main lounge on the first floor, completely oblivious to the fact that someone was watching us from a VIP booth upstairs. That someone was Chloe Sullivan. A friend had invited her out after work, and she had just settled in when she saw me walk in with another woman. Chloe's gaze was intense. Her friend, noticing where she was looking, followed her line of sight and started to tease her. Well, has the Ice Queen finally thawed? You're interested, aren't you? He is seriously handsome. Want me to go get his number for you? Wait, is that Grace Vaughn with him? Chloe frowned, a hint of confusion in her voice. Grace Vaughn, her friend nodded. Yeah, the vice president of the mysterious Azure Holdings. Azure is mysterious because it's a huge, publicly traded company with immense power, but nobody knows who the CEO is. For years, Grace Vaughn has been the public face of the entire operation. But come on, Chloe, you're way out of her league. You could totally land that guy. You talk too much, Chloe said flatly, her eyes drifting back down to me, a questioning look in them. The man had just arrived in Riverton. How could he possibly know Grace Vaughn? Chloe said nothing more, just picked up her glass and took a slow sip. Just then, Grace got up and walked away from the table, and I noticed several women in the bar looking my way. Before long, a wealthy-looking older woman approached me, holding a glass of wine. "Hey handsome, how about we get to know each other over a drink?" I glanced at her and said flatly, "I'm not looking for new friends." Her face tightened for a second, but then she smiled. "Come on, be friendly. I'll cover your entire tab for the night. How about that?" "No thanks." Seeing my complete lack of interest, the woman's embarrassment turned to anger. "Don't push your luck. I'm a very powerful woman. I could make sure you don't walk out of this bar tonight." Upstairs, Chloe was watching the entire exchange. Her friend noticed her expression and teased, "Chloe, that woman is not someone you want to cross. Looks like your new crush is about to get poached." Chloe frowned, stood, and started to head downstairs, planning to intervene and use her name to help me if things got ugly. But just as she got up, the scene below took a dramatic turn. The woman raised her hand to slap me, but I swatted it away. From the second floor, Chloe couldn't hear what was said, but she could read lips. She watched as I mouthed, slowly and clearly, "I don't want to embarrass you. Would you prefer I end you?" The words were pure, arrogant defiance. At that exact moment, Grace returned from the restroom. The wealthy woman recognized her, went pale, and immediately stammered an apology before scurrying away, as if she truly believed I might make good on my threat. My mood was ruined, so I said goodbye to Grace and left the bar. I ordered a car on my phone and sat on the curb to wait. Lighting a cigarette, I looked up at the sky. The moon didn't seem as full as it used to. Just then, a black Maybach pulled up in front of me. I assumed it was my ride, so I stubbed out my cigarette in a nearby trash can and opened the back door. To my surprise, there was a woman already sitting inside. "What are you doing here?" I realized it was Chloe. "Get in," she said in her usual cool tone. I hesitated for a second before sliding in next to her. For some reason, running into her like this made me feel strangely guilty. "Fancy meeting you here," I said, trying to sound casual. "I was just hanging out with a friend." "You too?" Chloe just nodded silently. I turned to look out the window, wondering. She was at the same bar. Had she seen me inside, or was this really a coincidence? We drove the rest of the way in silence, neither of us voicing the questions on our minds. When we walked through the front door of the mansion, Mrs. Sullivan's snide voice immediately cut through the air from the living room. "Only his second day in Rivorton and he's already staying out all night, fooling around with God knows who. How can a man like that possibly marry into this family?" Mr. Sullivan frowned at her words. He trusted my character but had been worried about my safety and was just about to call me when Chloe and I walked in together. "Oh," he said, a smile replacing his frown. "So you two were together." Chloe didn't say anything, neither confirming nor denying it. Mr. Sullivan smiled. "Ethan, about the engagement, I'd like you to spend some time with each of my 5 daughters. After that, you can decide who you feel is the best match and we can make it official. How does that sound?" I nodded. "That sounds fair, Mr. Sullivan." Mrs. Sullivan was clearly unhappy, but she knew she couldn't change her husband's mind, so she settled for shooting me a dirty look. The next morning, I was jolted awake by a sharp knock on my door. I opened it, still half asleep and grumpy, to find Chloe standing there. "Get dressed," she said. "You're coming to the office with me." "What for?" Then I remembered. Mr. Sullivan wanted me to spend a day with each of them, and today was Chloe's turn. Took me half an hour to get ready. I lethargically climbed into the car, and we headed for her company. Just then, she spoke, her tone firm and serious. "Ethan, I'm only doing this because my father asked me to. I have no intention of liking you, so don't waste your time trying to get to know me." I looked over at her in the driver's seat, a playful spark igniting in me. "Really? That's a shame, because after the last couple of days, you're the one I'm most interested in. What are we going to do about that?" A flicker of annoyance crossed her face. "I'd advise you not to waste your breath," she said coldly. I just smiled and didn't say anything else. When we arrived at the office building, Chloe and I got out of the car, and immediately, all the employees passing by stopped and stared. "Whoa, who's that guy with the CEO? He's gorgeous. He's got to be from some rich family. He and Ms. Sullivan look amazing together." The office was instantly buzzing with gossip. Chloe handed her keys to the guard at the security kiosk. As I started to walk, I stopped dead in my tracks, a surprised grin spreading across my face. "Mr. Peterson." The older man in the security uniform looked up and smiled back. "Well, I'll be." "Ethan, what are you doing here?" Chloe looked between us, confused, but I just waved her on. "You go ahead. I'll help Mr. Peterson park the car." The Sullivan security detail, who were watching me, probably expected this hick to cling to Chloe all day. They must have been surprised when I ended up spending the entire morning chatting with the security guard. The onlookers were all sneering. "Figures he's from some small town. Birds of a feather, I guess." No wonder they can talk all morning. Yeah, that guard is probably from his hometown or something. Who cares if he's handsome? He's got no class. I was oblivious to all the chatter. I waited for Mr. Peterson's shift to end, and then we went to a diner nearby. He smiled. He wasn't the gossiping type and had only found out this morning why I was at the company in the first place. Ethan, I've met all 5 of the Sullivan girls, he said. If you ask me, Chloe is the most impressive. Since she took over the company, she's landed some massive deals. She's smart, capable, and a real class act. You should definitely keep her at the top of your list. I took a sip of water, my face twisting in distaste. No way, Mr. Peterson. Why would I want to be with an ice queen? To me, Chloe was just cold and distant. Everything I'd said to her that morning was just to get a rise out of her. Mr. Peterson just laughed and started telling me about the other sisters. After lunch, I went back to the office and spent the rest of the afternoon at the security kiosk. When Chloe finished her afternoon meetings, she asked her assistant where I was. She frowned when she heard I was still with the guard. This morning he'd claimed she was the one he was most interested in, and now he'd spent the entire day hanging out with security. What was his game? Chloe sat at her desk, thinking for a moment before speaking. Run a background check on that guard, Mr. Peterson. Find out what his connection is to Ethan Hayes. And while you're at it, send Ethan up to my office. Yes, Ms. Sullivan. A few minutes after her assistant left, I walked in. I glanced around her office before asking lazily, "What's up? You spent the entire day in the security office." My father wouldn't approve. I found that excuse a little ridiculous. Fine, but you're the one who called me up here, so don't blame me if I'm a distraction. With that, I plopped down on her sofa. Chloe ignored me and went back to her work. I sat there on the couch, playing a game on my phone with the volume turned all the way up. Chloe's brow furrowed in annoyance. 8 minutes later, she could hear me yelling at my teammates. Are you serious? You're feeding them more kills than a food delivery app. Use your hands, man, not your feet. You're just a respawning NPC at this point. Chloe was speechless. For someone yelling at a video game, his insults were surprisingly creative. Just then, the player on the other end started firing back with much less creative and much more vulgar insults. At that moment, Chloe deeply regretted her decision to bring me to her office. Was this man sent here just to torment her? She started to wonder if I wasn't interested in her at all, but actually disliked her the most. No, wait, he definitely disliked her youngest sister the most. Thankfully, the game finally ended just as Chloe was finishing her work. She grabbed her coat and told me it was time to go. We had just reached the door when her assistant returned. Chloe glanced at me. Go wait in the parking garage. She watched me leave before turning back to her assistant. Inside the office, the assistant delivered her report. Ms. Sullivan, that guard, Mr. Peterson, is not who he seems. He owns multiple apartment buildings and office towers in downtown Riverton. Basically, he's a billionaire landlord who works as a security guard because he's bored. As for his connection to Mr. Hayes, I haven't been able to find anything concrete. Chloe processed this for a moment. How did Ethan know someone like that in Riverton? First Grace Vaughn and now this. She was starting to get the feeling there was more to me than met the eye. But she didn't dwell on it. It wasn't her business, as long as she knew Mr. Peterson wasn't a threat. When we got home, the living room was bustling with activity. The other 4 sisters were there, along with a man about my age, dressed in a sharp black suit. He had the unmistakable look of a rich kid. Chloe, you're back. Come, sit down. Aiden just got back in the country today and came straight from the airport. The man stood up and greeted Chloe with a wide smile. She offered a brief, cool reply. A flicker of disappointment crossed Aiden's face before he turned to me, his smile returning. You must be Ethan Hayes. I'm Aiden Carter. I grew up with Chloe and her sisters. We're gonna be like brothers. If you ever get bored in Riverton, just give me a call. Aiden had heard from the others that I was good-looking, but he hadn't expected this. I could see the subtle calculation in his eyes and just gave him a simple, sounds good. Just then, Mr. Sullivan came home. The Carters and the Sullivans were old family friends, so he greeted Aiden warmly. The group chatted happily while I sat off to the side, waiting for dinner to be served. Just then, Mrs. Sullivan spoke up. Oh, Aiden, dear, I heard you were coming back, so I picked up a few things for you the other day. Let me go get them. She went upstairs, but when she returned, her expression was sour. She turned to her husband. Where is the box I kept in my dresser? It's gone. How should I know? Mr. Sullivan retorted. Did any of you take it? Mrs. Sullivan asked, looking at her daughters. They all shook their heads. Aiden spoke up cautiously. Mrs. Sullivan, do you think it could have been stolen? Who would dare? Whoever took it, hand it over now and get out of this house. and I might let it go. Otherwise, you'll be going to jail." When no one confessed, she immediately ordered, "Mr. Lee, I want every single room in this house searched." I was just scrolling on my phone, but this caught my attention. An hour later, the butler and his staff had searched all the servants' quarters without finding anything. "Ma'am," Mr. Lee stammered, "the only room left to search besides the family's is Mr. Hayes." Just then, one of the maids stepped forward. "Ma'am, yesterday, when we were talking about the security cameras being down, Mr. Hayes walked right past us. And later that afternoon, I saw him coming out of your bedroom." The implication was clear. I knew the cameras were broken, and I had been in Mrs. Sullivan's room. Mrs. Sullivan's face contorted with rage. "Ethan Hayes, so that's why you refused the credit card yesterday, acting all high and mighty while you're secretly a common thief. Mr. Lee, search his room right now." Mr. Sullivan immediately jumped to my defense. "That's ridiculous. Ethan would never do something like that." "How do you know?" she shot back. "How well do you really know him, Robert? People from places like that are capable of anything. Besides, he was the only one here yesterday afternoon. He's the prime suspect." I remained calm. "It's all right, Mr. Sullivan. Let them search." I knew from the start this was a setup, and I had a pretty good idea who was behind it. The staff went up to my room while the Sullivans and Aiden sat on the couch, watching the drama unfold. I turned to the maid who had accused me and asked in a cold voice, "What's your name?" I had never set foot in Mrs. Sullivan's room. Why was this woman lying? The maid looked confused by the question but answered, "My name is Tina." A few minutes later, the butler came back downstairs. "Sir, ma'am," he announced, "we found this in Mr. Hayes' room." He held up a black plastic bag. Inside was a jade bracelet, the very item Mrs. Sullivan claimed was missing. Everyone was stunned. They had actually found it in my room. "Robert, what do you have to say now?" Mrs. Sullivan fumed. "Look at the man you brought into this house for our daughters. Not only is he a hick, he's a common thief." "It wasn't Ethan," Mr. Sullivan insisted. "Yes, perhaps there's been a misunderstanding," Aiden added, feigning concern. Just then, Chloe stood up. "Mom, Dad, let's call Detective Miller to check for prints. If Ethan really took it, his fingerprints will be all over it." Mr. Sullivan nodded and made a call to a detective he knew. Mrs. Sullivan looked at her husband and said through clenched teeth, "If his prints are on it, this ridiculous engagement is off, and he's out of this house." "I didn't steal it," I said. I thought back. Yesterday, I'd noticed a thin, sticky film on my doorknob that was gone today. That's probably how they got my prints for the bracelet. Mrs. Sullivan sneered. "The evidence is right here. What's your explanation?" I looked at her. "Don't worry, I can prove my innocence." "Ma'am, may I borrow this for a moment?" Before anyone could react, I calmly picked up the jade bracelet from the table, slipped it onto my wrist, and held out my arm for everyone to see. Under the bright lights of the living room, my wrist almost immediately began to turn red and swell up. An intense, painful itching spread up my arm, but I ignored it and chuckled. "Ma'am, this is very high-quality jade. I have a rare allergy. The purer the jade, the worse my reaction." Mr. Sullivan rushed forward. "You foolish boy. If you knew you were allergic, why would you touch it? Take it off quickly." I looked at Mrs. Sullivan with a cold smile. "This rash won't fade for at least 3 days. Which proves I couldn't have been the one who stole it." She was still not convinced. "Maybe you were wearing gloves." I just smiled. "If I was wearing gloves, how did my fingerprints get on the bracelet?" Mrs. Sullivan was at a loss for words. My hand had been perfectly fine moments before. It was obvious to anyone with eyes that I had been framed. I then spoke again, my tone casual. "All right, I've made my case. Now, Mrs. Sullivan, I'd like to ask you why you transferred $20,000 to Tina yesterday." Both Tina and Mrs. Sullivan's faces changed. "What are you talking about?" I pulled up a screenshot on my phone. It was a bank statement showing a transfer from Eleanor Sullivan's account to Tina's. I knew a maid would have no reason to frame me on her own. She had to have been paid off. As I suspected, once I had her name, a quick search of her financial records revealed the truth. The whole thing was a setup orchestrated by Mrs. Sullivan. Seeing the statement, everyone looked shocked, the pieces of the puzzle falling into place. Only Chloe seemed to have a different question on her mind. How on earth did he get access to those bank records? Mrs. Sullivan stammered, "Tina's mother is sick. She needed an advance on her salary." Mr. Sullivan sighed heavily. "I was there when we hired Tina. She's an orphan. Ethan, I promise you, I will get to the bottom of this." He then turned to Chloe. "Take Ethan to the hospital to get that rash looked at." I nodded and followed Chloe out. As soon as we got to the car, she spoke, her voice quiet but clear. "I'm sorry." I paused. realizing she was apologizing for her mother. "It's fine," I said, then added with a wry smile. "You all must be pretty disappointed though. If her little scheme had worked, I'd be out of your hair for good. Tell me, before all this, did you think it was me?" Chloe shook her head. "No, you don't seem that stupid." I smirked. "Exactly. Why would I risk becoming the Sullivan son-in-law over a cheap bracelet? I'm not that stupid." We drove to the clinic in silence. After getting a prescription from the doctor, we went to the pharmacy. I sat in a waiting chair, and a few minutes later, Chloe returned with the cream. "Give me your hand." I held out my arm, and she opened the tube of ointment and began gently applying it to the rash. "Does it hurt?" The cream was cool, but it stung. Of course it hurt. I kept a smile on my face. "You know, Chloe, for an ice queen, you're surprisingly gentle. I think I'm starting to like you." A faint blush colored her cheeks at my teasing. She cleared her throat and said sternly, "I've already told you, I am not going to like you." I just smiled and let it drop. I was just kidding, of course. I needed to carefully observe all 5 of these sisters. But as I stood up to leave, Chloe watched me go, a strange, unfamiliar feeling stirring within her. As we left the clinic, Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan were in the middle of a massive argument back at the mansion. "Eleanor, Ethan has only been here for a few days. Why are you targeting him like this? He's just a boy." Eleanor laughed coldly. "Isn't it because of you? Robert, why did you bring him here in the first place? I told you this was a bad idea. I made a pact with his father years ago." "A pact?" she said, her voice rising. "That's just an excuse. The real reason is that you used to be in love with Evelyn Hayes, isn't it?" At the mention of the name, Robert's face went rigid. He and Ethan's father had been best friends in college, both of them golden boys destined for success. Then they met the beautiful Evelyn Hayes, my mother. They both fell for her and agreed to pursue her fairly. Robert, using his family's influence, had arranged an engagement with Evelyn's family. But in the end, she chose my father, eloping with him to escape the arranged marriage. Eleanor pressed on. "You've been hung up on her all these years, haven't you? That's why you brought her son here, why you treat him so well." "I'm right, aren't I?" Robert sighed and took his wife's hand. "No, what happened with Evelyn was a long time ago. You're the only one I love now." Eleanor looked at him. "Then why are you so good to Ethan?" A sad expression crossed Robert's face. "Do you remember that charity gala years ago? We were attacked. Ethan's father took a bullet for me, crippled his leg. That's why they lived so quietly in that small town all these years. Before he died, he made me promise I'd look after his son." Eleanor's expression froze. Robert seemed lost in the memory. Just then, Chloe and I walked in. I don't know what had changed, but Mrs. Sullivan looked at me and gave me a genuine, heartfelt apology. I accepted it and went upstairs to my room. I had just gotten out of the shower when there was a knock on my door. It was Mrs. Sullivan. I looked at her, confused. "Can I help you, ma'am? I'd like to have a word with you." We sat down in my room and she got straight to the point. "Ethan, I am willing to accept you into our family, and I will honor the agreement for you to marry one of my daughters. But you cannot choose Chloe." I paused, surprised. "Why not? Chloe is my most accomplished daughter, and I already have a suitable husband in mind for her. So, I need you to stay away from her." She was basically telling me I wasn't good enough. The suitable husband had to be Aiden Carter. "I understand, ma'am." Mrs. Sullivan said nothing else and left. The next day, it was my turn to spend time with the second sister, Laura. Laura was the vice president of the Sullivan Group, and she and Chloe were classic frenemies. The rumor was she loved to compete with her older sister. The moment we got in the car, Laura asked, "So, how was your day with Chloe yesterday?" I answered casually, "It was fine. Let me give you some advice," she said, leaning in. "My big sister is not as great as she seems. She's ruthless and cold. You'd be wise not to pick her." A glint of amusement appeared in my eyes. "So I should pick you instead?" Laura froze, then gave an awkward laugh. "I wouldn't go that far." When we got to the office, she was immediately swamped with work, and I spent another day hanging out with Mr. Peterson at the security kiosk. On the third day, it was my turn with the third sister, Jessica. Jessie was a massive pop star with millions of followers. Today was not only her birthday but also the 10th anniversary of her debut. She spent the entire day in rehearsals for her concert that night, with absolutely no time to pay any attention to me. I took a nap and had just come downstairs when Aiden walked over, smiling. "Hey, we're all heading to the mall to pick up some new clothes and get a birthday present for Jessie. You should come with us." I figured why not and joined them. When we got to the mall, Aiden immediately pulled me into a high-end men's store. "Ethan, A guy like you would look incredible in a suit." The four sisters waited by the entrance. Aiden glanced at them, then held up a hideous dark green suit. "This one's nice. You should try it on." I glanced at the suit. The cut was completely dated. When I didn't say anything, Aiden picked up an even uglier one. "How about this?" I narrowed my eyes. "Aiden, if you don't like me, you don't have to pretend. And you certainly don't need to resort to this. I may be from the country, but my taste is a hell of a lot better than yours." "Ethan, I think you're misunderstanding me," Aiden said, his expression turning sour. He had clearly assumed that some hick from Oakhaven wouldn't know the first thing about fashion and would be grateful for any advice. He never expected me to call him out. I ignored him, browsed the racks, and picked out a suit I actually liked, telling the clerk I'd take it. As I was about to pull out my phone to pay, Chloe stepped forward and handed the cashier a black card. "Put it on this," I said quietly. "Thanks." Chloe replied in her usual detached tone. "Don't get the wrong idea. My father told me to." Then she turned and walked away, leaving me standing there, slightly bewildered. Aiden watched the exchange, clenching his fists, a dark look in his eyes. By the time we left the mall, the two bodyguards trailing us could barely carry all the shopping bags. Lily piped up, her voice laced with sarcasm. "Wow, some people really know how to take advantage, spending so much money on so many things." She was clearly still mad about my comment from the first day. Before I could respond, Aiden jumped in. "Lily, how can you say that? Ethan just picked up a few things." "A few things?" she scoffed. I snorted. "It wasn't your money." Lily's face tightened. "It was my sister's money." I glanced at her. "Exactly. It was your sister's money, and she didn't say a word. So why are you running your mouth?" With that, I got in the car, leaving Lily fuming. She continued to complain the whole ride back. I just rolled my eyes. I had more than enough money to pay for everything myself, but no one ever gave me the chance. Evening came quickly. After dinner, I changed and headed to the concert with the group. The moment we found our seats, Aiden made a beeline for the spot next to Chloe. I didn't care and took a seat next to Laura. The concert started, and Jessie took the stage. She was wearing a stunning white dress, and as a superstar, she was absolutely gorgeous. The crowd went wild, screaming so loud I thought my ears would split. Over the next hour, Jessie performed several of her hits. Then the MC came on stage. "Tonight is a special night, marking Jessie's 10th anniversary in the business. To celebrate, we have a special surprise. We're going to randomly select one lucky fan from the audience to come up on stage and sing a duet with Jessie." The stadium erupted in a roar of applause and screams. On the big screen, a digital selector spun through seat numbers before finally landing on 26. Laura nudged me. "No way. Ethan, that's you." I froze for a second as the MC announced, "Let's give a huge welcome to our fan from seat 26. I narrowed my eyes. What were the odds? I glanced over at our group and saw the smug, triumphant look on Aiden's face. I understood immediately. This was a setup. Someone wanted to humiliate me. A small smile played on my lips as I made my way to the stage. Jessie looked stunned to see it was me. The MC beamed. "Wow, what a handsome fan. What's your name, sir?" I answered calmly, "Ethan Hayes." "Ethan Hayes." A murmur went through the crowd. "Is that the guy who's engaged to one of the Sullivans?" "No way, he's that hot." At least half the guys in the audience considered themselves boyfriend fans of Jessie's. The looks of pure jealousy they were shooting my way were intense. "Okay, everyone," the MC continued. "The song we'll be performing is Good Night by the artist North." North was a hugely popular but mysterious singer. No one knew what he looked like, but his music was a global phenomenon. The MC handed me a microphone. I pursed my lips and said, "Sorry, but I'm completely tone deaf. I can't sing." A wave of murmurs and jeers came from the crowd. "Get off the stage. Don't stand next to our queen. This is so embarrassing. Get him out of here." I narrowed my eyes. I knew the people who set me up were loving this. But there's nothing I enjoy more than proving people wrong. I took the microphone. "I can't sing this song," I said, "but I can play it." The song's arrangement was for piano. Jessie gave me a skeptical look. "He can't sing, but he can play piano?" Was he joking? The MC quickly jumped in. "All right, everyone, let's give them some quiet and get ready for a special performance of Good Night by Jessie and Mr. Hayes." I walked over to the grand piano on stage, and a hush fell over the arena. The moment I played the opening notes, Jessie's eyes widened in surprise. He could actually play. She immediately focused, pouring her heart into the vocals. Our performance was flawless, perfectly in sync. At one point, she glanced over at me, and in that moment, 1,000 fan edits were born. Down in the audience, Aiden forced a smile. I had no idea Ethan could play the piano so well. He must be professionally trained. One playing, one singing. They actually look pretty good together. He said the words, but inside he was seething. The arena was owned by his family's company, so rigging the fan selection had been easy. He had planned to humiliate me, but instead, Chloe heard his words, and her gaze drifted back to me on the stage. Under the spotlights, I had an air of mystery and talent that was undeniably captivating. But for some reason, seeing me up there with Jessie felt wrong. It was jarring to her. Compatible? No, not at all. The song ended to a storm of applause. I headed backstage to the restroom, and when I came out, a woman in a simple black dress was waiting by the door. She wore a face mask, so I couldn't see her features, but she carried herself with an unmistakable elegance. "You're Ethan Hayes, aren't you?" she said. "I loved your performance. These are for you." She handed me an exquisite bouquet of tulips. I took them, a little confused. "Do I know you?" She shook her head. "No, I just admired your playing. I have to go now. Goodbye." As she turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of her eyes over the mask. They were filled with a deep, profound sadness. I stood frozen, staring at the flowers, a strange feeling stirring inside me. 2 hours later, the concert was over, and I left with the 5 sisters and Aiden. Back at the mansion, Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan had prepared a birthday dinner for Jessie. After she blew out her candles, it was time for presents. I calmly presented the gift I had brought. Jessie thanked everyone as she opened her presents. The deed to a condo, a diamond necklace, a ticket for a luxury cruise, all incredibly expensive gifts. Then she got to mine, which was in a modest-sized box. Everyone knew I hadn't bought anything at the mall, so they probably assumed I'd just grabbed something random to give her. Jessie casually unwrapped it and then froze. It was a one-of-a-kind, custom-made LAR microphone. That microphone had been sold at a major auction for over $1 million to a mysterious, anonymous bidder. Jessie had missed the auction and had been obsessed with it ever since, trying every connection she had to track down the buyer and make a higher offer, but she never could. Lily asked skeptically, "Is it a fake?" But Jessie knew instantly that it was the real deal. She looked at me, her eyes wide with excitement. "Oh my God, Ethan, is this really for me?" I just nodded calmly. It was only a microphone. She was really overreacting. Jessie was still staring at it, bewildered. "Where did you get this?" I waved it off. "I'm a decent pianist. The guy who originally bought it knows me and gave it to me, hoping I'd pursue a music career. But since I can't sing, I figured you should have it." I made up the excuse on the spot, and the room was once again filled with stunned silence. It was clear that my gift was her favorite. I could see everyone's opinion of me starting to shift. They had all assumed I was just some useless hick, but over the past few days, I had proven to be something else entirely. After a moment, I said, "Happy birthday. I'm a little tired, so I'm going to head up." The next morning, I was up early. Today was my day with Sarah, the 4th sister. She was a doctor with a cool, professional demeanor. We had barely spoken since I'd arrived. We drove to the hospital. "I have 2 surgeries today, so I'm going to be busy," she said. "You can just hang out in my office." I nodded. I played games on my phone all morning, but she was still in the OR. I got so bored that I eventually just left the hospital and went for a walk. I didn't see Sarah again for the rest of the day. The next morning, it was Lily's turn. She was the youngest and still in college. The family's driver had the day off, and since Chloe's office was on the way to the university, the 3 of us left together after breakfast. During the drive, Lily, sitting in the front passenger seat, suddenly gasped. "Oh my God, Chloe, I just saw online that someone broke your record at Serpent's Pass yesterday." Serpent's Pass was a notorious illegal street racing circuit, and Chloe held the record, set a year ago, at 5 minutes and 32 seconds. Lily absolutely idolized her older sister for her racing skills, so she was shocked that someone had beaten her time. Chloe simply raised an eyebrow. "It was a guy," Lily continued, "but he was wearing a helmet, so no one could see his face." I was still half asleep, listening to Lily chatter on, trying to figure out who the mystery driver was, but she couldn't find any info online. As we neared the campus, she suddenly turned her attention to me. "Hey Hick, you have a thing for my sister Jessie, don't you? You're probably one of her obsessed fans." I rolled my eyes, not even bothering to argue with the little brat, and just got out of the car. But I noticed that when she said that, Chloe's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Lily hopped out and waved. "Bye, Chloe. Hey, see if you can find out who that driver was, okay?" The racing enthusiast had a new hero. In her mind, he was some impossibly cool and handsome guy. Chloe ignored her question and instead said, "Make sure Ethan stays out of trouble. Who's going to mess with him?" Lily muttered as she walked off toward campus. All day I felt eyes on me. I guess being the guy set to marry a Sullivan made me a person of interest. After my first class, I went to the restroom. On my way out, a group of guys from the football team blocked my path. The one in the lead, a jock with a bleached blonde buzz cut, sneered at me. "You got a thing for Lily Sullivan?" I shook my head. "Nope." He jabbed a finger in my chest. "Listen, Hayes, Lily is the queen of this campus. You need to take a good look in the mirror and realize you're not in her league." I was baffled. Did these guys not hear me? I just said I wasn't interested. "Really?" I shot back. "Does Lily even know you exist? Who the hell are you to tell me who I'm worthy of?" His face tightened, and then he smirked. "Looks like we're going to have to teach you a lesson for bothering Lily on her own campus." When Lily heard I'd been cornered in the bathroom, she remembered her father's warning and reluctantly headed over. But when she got there, she froze. She saw the jock and his friends stumbling out, their faces bruised and bloody. Lily's jaw dropped. The blonde guy and his crew were the biggest bullies on campus, using their family money and high school sports cred to push everyone around. Then she saw me walk out without a single scratch on me. Seeing her shocked expression, I explained, "They tried to jump me, so I hit them back. I'm surprised someone like you has so many admirers. They're clearly not very bright, and their taste is terrible." Lily was speechless. She shouldn't have even bothered checking on this infuriating man. No one bothered me for the rest of the day. My last class was gym, and I just sat on the bleachers watching some girls play volleyball. After a little while, a sharp pain suddenly stabbed me in the gut. I clutched my stomach and sprinted toward the nearest public restroom. Miles away, Chloe was just finishing up her work when her assistant walked into her office. "Ms. Sullivan," I found him. "The person who broke your record at Serpent's Pass last night, it was Mr. Hayes." Chloe's head snapped up. "Who did you say it was?" The woman who was famously unflappable was, for once, completely shocked. "It was Ethan, but he was supposed to be with Sarah yesterday." This was completely unexpected. Ethan Hayes. This man was full of surprises. A rare, small smile touched Chloe's lips. Just then, her phone rang. It was Lily. "Chloe, it's bad. Ethan's missing." Lily had realized I was gone after gym class. I wasn't answering my phone, and she'd called the house to confirm I wasn't there. Hearing this, Chloe's expression hardened. "Lily, you call the police. I'll handle the rest." She immediately drove to the university and got access to the security footage. Finally, on the 5 p.m. feed, she saw me. I was walking toward a public restroom near the edge of campus, and a figure in a blue hoodie was trailing me from a distance. That meant the last place I was seen was that restroom. Chloe's expression was grim as she and her security team raced to that location. It was 6 p.m. now, and that part of campus was mostly deserted. As Chloe and her team approached, they could hear a man's cruel laughter coming from inside. "What's the matter? Not so tough now, are you? Why don't you fight back?" Another voice taunted. "You think you can mess with my Jessie? I'm going to teach you a lesson you'll never forget." Hearing her sister's name, Chloe knew they were dealing with obsessive fans. "Go," she commanded. One of her bodyguards kicked the door clean off its hinges. The laughter inside stopped instantly. One of the men glared at Chloe. "Who the hell are you? You're interrupting us." Chloe met his gaze, her voice dangerously calm. "You dare to touch someone protected by the Sullivan family?" Staring at the imposing woman in the doorway, one of the other guys stammered, "Dude, I think that's Chloe Sullivan." Anyone who followed business news would instantly recognize the powerful CEO. She was flanked by a team of professional bodyguards, each one built like a tank. In comparison, the kidnappers looked like scrawny teenagers. Chloe gave a subtle hand signal, and her team moved in, neutralizing the 3 men in seconds. The main guy, who had been so arrogant moments before, was now terrified. He had kidnapped me on a whim, never imagining he'd have to face consequences like this. "Ms. Sullivan, I'm so sorry. It was a mistake. I wasn't thinking." Chloe's voice was ice. "You can explain that to the police." At that, the other 2 dropped to their knees. "We're sorry, we didn't know who he was. Please, Ms. Sullivan, give us a break." Chloe ignored their begging. As police sirens wailed in the distance, the 3 men slumped to the floor, their faces pale with defeat. After the police had taken them away, the only people left were a frantic Lily, who had just arrived, and Chloe, who was helping me to my feet. "This guy is nothing but trouble," Lily fumed, already dreading the lecture they'd get from their father. "I bet he did this on purpose just to annoy us." Chloe frowned. "That's enough, Lily. Let's just get him to a hospital." "You take him." "I'm not going," Lily snapped, then stormed off. Chloe looked down at me, my face pale and my body covered in bruises, and then she helped me to her car and drove me to the hospital. Thanks to her sister Sarah being a doctor there, Chloe was able to take me directly to Sarah's office. Sarah gave me a thorough examination, her brow furrowed. Chloe watched, her expression serious. "What is it? Is he badly hurt?" Sarah cleared her throat. "He's got some heavy bruising and a mild concussion, but the main reason he's in so much pain is because he has explosive diarrhea and is severely dehydrated." At the mention of explosive diarrhea, Chloe's ears turned bright red. "Okay, I have to get to another surgery," Sarah said. "You can stay with him. Make sure you get him admitted. These injuries are going to take some time to heal." With that, Sarah left, and the room fell silent. I slowly opened my eyes, my stomach still cramping. "Water," I croaked, my voice weak. "I need some water." Chloe poured a glass and handed it to me. Seeing the sweat on my forehead, she handed me a tissue. I managed a weak smile. "Thanks. Just like the woman I'm interested in to be so thoughtful." Even though I was in agony, I couldn't resist teasing her. She frowned. "Mr. Hayes, I wish you would stop making jokes like that. I've already made my position clear." I rolled my eyes. "Why do you have to be so serious all the time? It's boring." I went back to sipping my water. Suddenly, Chloe stood up. "I have to get to an emergency meeting," she said coolly. "I'll have the admission paperwork sent up. You should rest." "Okay." The moment Chloe left, my phone rang. It was Grace, her voice filled with concern. "Ethan, are you okay? I heard you're in the hospital." I was surprised. "How did you know? Have you not seen Twitter? You were kidnapped by Jesse's stalker fans. Chloe Sullivan rescued you and personally drove you to the hospital. The paparazzi got pictures of the whole thing. The internet is going crazy shipping you too." I pulled up Twitter, and sure enough, it was the #1 trending topic. Heiress Chloe Sullivan's devotion to fiancé Ethan Hayes, a budding romance. I frowned. "Get someone to kill that story, and you'll have to manage the company on your own for a few days. Call me if anything urgent comes up." "You got it, Ethan," Grace said, her voice turning hard. "And by the way, I've already taken care of those stalkers. They won't be seeing the outside of a prison cell for a very, very long time." I just grunted in response. I had a feeling there was more to this than just some crazed fans. Grace continued, "Also, the Sullivan Group wants to partner with us on a project. The profits would be huge, but they have one condition. They want a meeting with the CEO of Azure Holdings." I frowned. "Why would they insist on meeting me?" "I know you can't do that right now," she went on. "So I told them no, but that we could revisit it in the future." "Good," I said, then hung up. A small smile played on my lips. "They want to meet me?" "Not yet. Chloe Sullivan, this is just the beginning." The next morning, Chloe showed up at my hospital room. I was peeling an orange and grinned at her. "Wow, the great Chloe Sullivan, skipping work to come see little old me? I'm flattered. This orange is really sweet. Want a piece?" I then offered her a banana. "Don't read too much into it. My father sent me," she said, ignoring my hand. Her expression was serious. "I have a question for you." She hesitated for a moment, then asked, "You're the one who broke the record at Serpent's Pass? How does a guy from a small town like Oakhaven get into street racing?" She stared at me, waiting for an answer. This man was an enigma. On paper, he was nobody, but his actions were anything but. I just laughed. "It's just a hobby. Something to do when I'm bored." "Why are you so interested, Miss Sullivan?" Chloe was taken aback by my casual attitude. Her mind started racing. First, his connection to Grace Vaughn. Then, the billionaire security guard. His incredible piano playing. And now, breaking her supposedly unbeatable racing record. This man from a small town was anything but ordinary. "Ethan Hayes, I hope you're not up to something," she said, her tone a warning. But even as she said it, she felt a strange pull, a curiosity that was growing with every new revelation. Just then, a knock at the door broke her train of thought. Aiden Carter pushed the door open. Seeing Chloe and me alone in the room, he was consumed with jealousy. He rushed to my bedside, grabbing my hand with a look of feigned concern. "Ethan, you look so pale. Are you badly hurt?" His grip was surprisingly tight. I chuckled, glancing over at Chloe, and it all clicked. This guy's possessiveness was off the charts. "I'm fine," I said, pulling my hand free. "And Mr. Carter, you don't need to hold on so tight. People might get the wrong idea and think you despise me." Aiden's face flushed, but he kept the fake smile plastered on. "I'm just worried about you. Think how devastated Mr. Sullivan would be if anything happened to you." I smirked. "You're not even part of the family yet, and you're already so concerned with what he thinks? How very thoughtful of you, Mr. Carter." Aiden put on a wounded expression. Mr. Hayes, it seems you really don't like me. I gave him a sideways glance. You assume I hate you based on a few sentences? Aren't you a little full of yourself? I had rarely met someone so transparently fake. Aiden's face soured. I just came to see how you were doing. I didn't expect you to be so hostile. I think I should just leave. He stood up as if to go. Chloe frowned at me. Ethan, that's enough. Aiden was just trying to be nice. I just shook my head. Well, I don't need visitors. I'm not feeling well, and I'd like to get some rest, so if you two don't mind. Chloe looked at my pained expression, her own eyes darkening a little. All right, we'll go. You get some rest. Aiden, who wanted nothing more than to get Chloe away from me, quickly followed her out the door. The room was quiet again, but my mind was racing. I had overlooked something crucial. Very few people knew I was going to be on campus with Lily. So how did those fans know exactly where to find me? And how did they know the perfect time to grab me when I was alone? A chilling thought occurred to me. I made a call to a contact at the police department and asked them to lean on the guys they'd arrested. A few minutes later, I got a text back with a single name, Aiden Carter. My blood ran cold. It was him, one time after another. Aiden Carter, you've crossed the line. A few days later, Carter Corp was suddenly hit with a massive financial crisis. Key executives started dumping their stock. The company was on the verge of collapse, and they had to go to the Sullivans asking for a $200 million bailout. Mrs. Sullivan, still seeing Aiden as her ideal son-in-law, pressured Chloe into helping them, which stabilized the situation. With his family's company in turmoil, Aiden didn't have time to bother me at the hospital anymore, which was a welcome relief. A few days later, Sarah came by for my checkup. After finishing, she took off her stethoscope and smiled. You're healing up nicely. You can be discharged today. I just nodded. Okay, got it. Sarah then asked, isn't my sister coming to see you today? Chloe had been too busy dealing with the Carter Corp mess to visit. Not that I cared. I just kept eating my breakfast and replied casually, that's her business, not mine. You're asking the wrong guy. Sarah seemed surprised by my answer and laughed. Well, Dad wants you to get to know all of us. So, who's your favorite so far? I raised an eyebrow and smiled back. Who do you want it to be? Sarah just smiled. Never mind then, I won't ask. After all, I'm not interested in you, Mr. Hayes. With that, she turned and left my room. Chloe never showed up that afternoon. I checked myself out and took the Sullivans' car back to the mansion. I was feeling much better, but I couldn't just sit around the house all day. Mr. Sullivan suggested I start working at the company, which got a mixed reaction. Lily was the most vocal opponent. She shot a contemptuous look at me, sitting calmly on the sofa. He's a hick from some tiny town. What could he possibly know about running a business? Dad, you're giving him way too much credit. I watched her little outburst with amusement. I'm still more capable than you are. Chloe, however, remained silent, just watching me, a feeling growing that this man was still full of surprises. Mr. Sullivan's face hardened as he looked at his youngest daughter. Even if Ethan is from a small town, that gives you no right to mock him for it. You can skip dinner tonight, go to your room and think about what you've said. Just then, Jessie spoke up. I think we should let him try. It must be boring for him to be stuck at home all day. Ever since I'd given her the microphone, she'd warmed up to me, and now she was taking my side. Chloe thought for a moment before finally speaking. Let him start as an intern. We'll see how he does. If it doesn't work out, we'll find something else for him. And with that, the matter was settled. Lily was furious, but the company was Chloe's domain, so she couldn't argue. She just clenched her fists in frustration. I looked at her angry face and smiled. You don't seem very happy about me coming to the office. She shot back. You're nothing but trouble. Who knows what kind of chaos you'll cause at the company. I wasn't going to argue with a child. It didn't matter. The decision was made, and no matter how much she hated it, she would have to accept it. The very next morning, Chloe had me ride with her to the office. For my first day, she assigned me to the design department as a junior associate. I smiled and introduced myself to the people around my new desk. I had just sat down when a thick stack of files was slammed down in front of me. All right, this is your workload. I want it all done and in my inbox by noon. And don't think you can slack off just because you have friends in high places. Ethan Hayes. The man's tirade stopped short. He stared at my face, a look of shocked recognition dawning. Leo Jenkins was stunned. I just smiled. Long time no see, Leo. Of course I remembered him. Back in high school, Leo, the principal's son, had made my life hell because the girl he liked had a crush on me. We'd gotten into a huge fight which got me expelled. I ended up going abroad and finishing a double major before coming back. I never thought I'd see him again. I was different now, but that stubborn streak was still there. A cold smile spread across my face as I watched his expression twist in disbelief. "What's the matter, Leo? Cat got your tongue." His position as a manager seemed to give him a surge of confidence. "Let me make something clear. I'm your supervisor now. Don't try anything funny. If you don't do your job, I have a dozen ways to get you fired." I just laughed. "Pulling rank already? You'd better hope you can hold on to that position." My words hit a nerve, and his face flushed with anger. He couldn't stop himself from sneering, dredging up the past. "Who the hell do you think you are? You were a high school dropout. You probably spent the last few years being some rich old lady's boy toy. How else would a loser like you land a job here?" My expression turned to ice. "A boy toy? Is that what you think I am?" The sudden shift in my demeanor made him flinch. But then he seemed to remember his position of power, and his arrogance returned. "If the shoe fits." I was a good head taller than him. I leaned in close and said in a low, dangerous voice, "I wonder how Mr. Sullivan would feel if he heard someone calling his future son-in-law a boy toy. I bet he'd be furious." "The guy from the news? The one engaged to a Sullivan? That's you?" Leo didn't follow the news much, so he'd only vaguely heard about it. He couldn't believe that the person he'd despised his whole life was now connected to the Sullivans. The thought of the Sullivans' power sent a shiver down his spine. I had no interest in catching up with him. I didn't even look at him. "Good. Now you're interrupting my work, Mr. Jenkins." That was the final blow. Leo's face was purple with rage, but he was speechless. He finally straightened up and hissed, "So you're connected to the Sullivans. That won't save you here. In this company, if you don't have the skills, you're out. Sooner or later." I just smiled, completely unfazed. "We'll see." He shot me one last hateful glare and stormed off, already plotting his revenge. At 11 o'clock, an hour before the deadline, I emailed the completed files to Leo. A few minutes later, he sent them back. There were no notes, no feedback, just a single, blunt word, "redo." I knew it. He was going to make this as difficult as possible. I was confident in my work, so I didn't change a thing and sent it again. Unsurprisingly, he rejected it again. I was done playing his game. I printed out the proposal and walked straight to the CEO's office. Chloe was at her desk. She looked up as I entered. "Can I help you?" I placed the file on her desk and smiled. "Chloe, your department manager seems to think my proposal isn't up to snuff. I was hoping you could give it a look." She began to read, and as she turned the pages, her expression changed from neutral to intrigued, then to impressed. The ideas were unconventional and brilliant, and some of the strategies were things she had been considering herself. She looked up. "Leo gave you this assignment?" I smiled and nodded. Chloe buzzed her secretary and told her to send Leo Jenkins to her office. When Leo walked in and saw me standing there, he shot me a dirty look before turning to Chloe nervously. "Ms. Sullivan? You wanted to see me?" Chloe's voice was ice cold. "This is the assignment you give to a new hire on his first day?" Leo started to tremble. "Ms. Sullivan, I. She glared at him. "This is the most important proposal of the quarter, and you handed it off to a junior associate? Are you trying to sabotage your own team? You've got a lot of nerve, Leo. I'm docking your pay for the next 2 months. Chloe rarely lost her temper, but the fury in her voice today was enough to make Leo shake. He was livid, wanting nothing more than to wipe the smirk off my face, but he didn't dare say a word. He just stood there, seething. After Leo left, Chloe finally looked at me. "You're a fair boss, Miss Sullivan," I said with a grin. She looked at my cheerful face, her mind racing. This man was one surprise after another. He was definitely not what she had expected. For the next couple of days, Leo avoided me like the plague, but I could see the hatred in his eyes whenever he thought I wasn't looking. I knew he was planning something. I ran into Laura by the coffee machine. She winked at me. "I heard Chloe disciplined one of her managers because of you. You must be pretty special." I could hear the sarcastic edge in her voice, but I kept my expression neutral. "What's the matter, Ms. Sullivan? Jealous that I'm stealing your big sister's attention?" Her smile faltered for a second. "You're very funny, Mr. Hayes." I calmly poured myself a coffee. "Weren't you the one who started it? I'm just playing by your rules." She kept her smile in place. "You're an interesting man, Mr. Hayes. No wonder you've managed to catch the eye of a workaholic like Chloe." There was always a subtle dig in everything she said. I smiled and nodded. "Thank you, but you talk a little too much." Her expression flickered. It was the first time anyone had ever said that to her. No one had ever managed to get under her skin like that. "Well then, I won't keep you from your coffee," she said, turning to leave. I watched her go, a thoughtful expression on my face. My proposal was a huge success with our partners, and the company's quarterly profits soared. To celebrate, the company decided to host a formal gala. Even though Chloe knew I wasn't a clueless hick, for the sake of appearances, she insisted on taking me to buy a new suit for the event. Learning from last time, I just picked out what I wanted and let Chloe pay. When we got back to the office, the entrance was swarming with reporters. The moment they saw us get out of the car together, they descended on us like vultures. Is it true you two are secretly in a relationship? Can you give us a comment? Chloe swept her icy gaze over the crowd, and they immediately fell silent. She used the momentary quiet to hustle me inside the building. It was less of a party and more of a networking event. As always, Chloe was the center of attention, surrounded by people trying to get a moment of her time. I snuck off to a quiet corner and started sampling the food. I had just sat down when Leo walked over. Well, if it isn't the man of the hour, why aren't you by the CEO's side? His tone was mocking, but his eyes were filled with pure jealousy. Why did this random hick get to be the CEO's fiancé, and not him? How are you managing without that docked pay, Mr. Jenkins? I asked, my voice light and casual. His face paled at the memory. Don't get too comfortable, Hayes. Chloe's childhood friend, Aiden Carter, is the one her family really wants for her. You're just an orphan. What makes you think you're good enough for her? I just smiled and shook my head. I never said I wanted to marry Chloe. And besides, if I'm not good enough, what makes you think you are? Leo knew he couldn't win a war of words with me. Just you wait. You'll be out of this company before you know it. A sinister smile spread across his face as he thought about what he had planned for later. I just chuckled. Whatever you've got, bring it on. Unable to come up with a retort, he just slunk away. The main event of the evening began. Chloe took the stage to announce the company's quarterly results. Suddenly, a voice cut through the applause from the back of the room. I believe there's a problem with that proposal. The room fell silent, all eyes turning to the source of the interruption. Chloe looked over, her expression unreadable. You have something to say? Leo Jenkins stepped forward. I'm here to report that Ethan Hayes plagiarized his proposal. You're accusing him of plagiarism? Chloe asked. Do you have any proof? Leo gritted his teeth and handed over a file of evidence he had prepared. I narrowed my eyes. So this was his big plan. The core concept of this design, Leo announced, was stolen from the work of a genius student named Aaron from a top international university. This hick passed off Aaron's work as his own. A student from a top university versus a guy from the middle of nowhere. It was clear who the crowd would believe. The room erupted in whispers. I knew he was a fake. It's one thing to be incompetent, but to plagiarize. How can we have someone like that in our company? Chloe ignored the murmurs and looked directly at me. Ethan, do you have anything to say? She saw the calm, almost amused look in my eyes, and a strange sense of reassurance washed over her. She felt somehow that he was telling the truth, but she still needed to hear my explanation. I smiled and nodded. You're right. I did borrow a little inspiration. You're very perceptive. Leo, sensing victory, became bolder. He was a good-for-nothing dropout then, and he's a fraud now. How can we let someone like him stay at this company? Ms. Sullivan, I demand that you fire him immediately. Chloe frowned slightly, waiting for me to continue. And what if, I said calmly, I am Aaron? Leo burst out laughing. You're Aaron? Don't make me laugh, Hayes. If you're Aaron, I'll quit right now and you can have my job. Aaron was a prodigy who had finished a double major at a young age. Why would someone like that come back here to be a junior associate? Is that a promise? I asked nonchalantly. Leo was certain he had one. Yes, I said it, he declared proudly. I walked up to the stage, connected my phone to the large screen projector, and started a video call. A few seconds later, the kind, familiar face of an elderly man appeared on the screen. It was Professor Andrew, a two-time Nobel laureate. The entire room was stunned into silence. They couldn't believe I knew someone like him. I smiled. Hello, Professor. Sorry to bother you like this. Professor Andrew beamed back at me. Aaron, it's been too long. I'm so happy to hear from you. I could abandon my lab work for the rest of the day. I laughed and shook my head. I'm sorry to interrupt, Professor. Your work is important. We continued to chat easily in English, and the entire room remained silent, listening in awe. Most of the people at Sullivan Group were highly educated and could understand our conversation. The shocking part wasn't the language. It was the fact that I knew him at all, and that Professor Andrew had just confirmed in front of everyone that I was, in fact, Aaron. Leo's world came crashing down. He stared at the screen, then at me, stammering, No, it can't be. He had lost, utterly and completely. I ended the call and looked at Leo's pale, defeated face. So, Leo, I said with a cold smile, is it still plagiarism if I'm borrowing from myself? He was speechless. Chloe was beyond shocked. This man was a constant source of astonishment. Leo, she said, her voice firm, go to HR and collect your final paycheck tonight. You're done here. She had no tolerance for his kind of arrogance in her company. The drama was over. Chloe offered to drive me home, but I told her I had something else to do. I walked out and got into a car that was waiting for me. Grace Vaughn was in the driver's seat. Ethan, are you feeling better? She asked. I laughed. I've been fine for days. Let's go, we need to hurry or we'll miss it. Grace nodded, hit the accelerator, and the car shot forward into the night. We were headed to a high-stakes underground auction. The main event tonight was a custom-built supercomputer, supposedly the work of a legendary hacker. It was one of a kind, and I had to have it. We arrived just as the final item, the computer, was brought out. The bidding started at $1 million, and hands shot up all over the room. I waited, letting the initial frenzy die down before I entered the fray. 12 million, the auctioneer called. Do I hear 13? Grace slowly raised our paddle. 13 million it is. Going once, going twice. 20 million, a new voice called out. My smile froze. I looked across the room and saw a familiar silhouette. Most people were wearing sunglasses, so it was hard to be sure. 30 million, Grace countered. 30 million for a computer was an insane price. The room went silent. Then, the woman in sunglasses raised her paddle again. 40 million. Grace looked at me, asking if we should continue. I shook my head. Let her have it. The gavel came down and the computer was sold. Afterwards, Grace was driving me home when we were stopped by a group of people just outside the venue. The woman in the lead was the one from the auction, with blonde hair and sunglasses. She had an air of power about her. Ethan, she said, long time no see. Even with the glasses, I knew that voice. A grin spread across my face. Bianca? What are you doing here? We had studied under the same mentor and were both top-tier hackers. Bianca Frost laughed. I came to buy you a birthday present. In 2 days, did you forget? I knew you'd want this, so I flew in to get it for you. How long are you in town? Not long. I fly out tomorrow. I was gonna have it shipped, but this is much easier. I groaned. If I'd known it was you, I wouldn't have bid you up. We just handed the auction house a ton of free money. Bianca just ruffled my hair. It's fine. It's only 40 million. As long as you're happy. In a dark corner nearby, the flash of a camera went off, then quickly vanished. We chatted for a bit longer before Bianca had to leave for her flight. I went back to the Sullivan mansion. The next morning, when I came down for breakfast, everyone was staring at me strangely. Lily snorted. I can't believe you're actually some kind of genius. I sat down and ignored her. Mr. Sullivan shot her a warning look. That's enough out of you. It's Saturday, so I've decided we're all going hiking as a family. A wave of reluctance washed over the 5 sisters' faces. Hiking? It was tiring and hot, and none of them were interested. Dad, I have a couple of surgeries scheduled today, Sarah said, starting to get up. I don't think I can make it. Her father stopped her. What? You're the only doctor at the entire hospital. Sarah gave an awkward laugh and sat back down. Jessie and Lily, who had been about to make their own excuses, wisely kept their mouths shut. Excellent. Settled then. We leave in an hour. No one could argue with Mr. Sullivan's command. Soon, they had all changed into hiking gear and were on their way to a popular local trail. When we got to the trailhead, the first person I saw was Aiden Carter, standing there in a full suit, a wide smile on his face. Mrs. Sullivan's face lit up. Aiden, dear, you made it. I was afraid you wouldn't be able to come. Aiden smiled. You invited me, Mrs. Sullivan. Of course I came. Lily, never one to hold her tongue, looked him up and down and said, who wears a suit to go hiking? How are you going to climb in that? I had to hide a smile. Lily was certainly something else. Aiden's face fell. I'm sorry, I don't really hike. I didn't know what to wear. I watched his pathetic display and felt a headache coming on. This guy was going to be a pain all day. I shouldn't have come. Mrs. Sullivan shot Lily a glare. That's enough. It doesn't matter what he's wearing. Then she took Aiden's arm and led the way up the trail. We followed behind them. Chloe was silent the whole time. I decided to try and get a reaction out of her. You know, Chloe, they say smiling keeps you young. She completely ignored me, just staring off at the view. Suddenly, I stepped on a loose rock and twisted my ankle. I grimaced, grabbing my foot in pain. What happened? Chloe asked, stopping and turning back to me. Twisted my ankle. Can you walk? A cold sweat broke out on my forehead from the pain. Seeing how much pain I was in, Chloe helped me to my feet, putting my arm around her shoulder. I could smell the faint, clean scent of her perfume, and I felt my face flush. I can walk on my own. It's already swelling up. Stop being so stubborn, she said, her voice firm. There's a first aid station at the summit. We can have Sarah take a look at it there. Laura, watching this, smirked. Well, Chloe, I never thought I'd see the day. The Ice Queen actually cares about a man. Miracles do happen. Oh, shut up, Chloe snapped back. Lily just rolled her eyes. So dramatic. Sarah was on the phone dealing with a hospital issue, and Jessie was talking to her agent. Neither of them paid us any mind. Aiden, however, noticed everything. Seeing Chloe helping me, he was consumed with jealousy. His mood soured instantly. Mrs. Sullivan noticed his dark expression. What's wrong, Aiden? You seem upset. Aiden glanced back at me and Chloe. Do you think Chloe likes him? Mrs. Sullivan whipped her head around and saw me leaning on her daughter. Her face hardened. Don't you worry, Aiden. I'll take care of this. When we reached the summit, they took me to the first aid station. A little while later, when I was alone, Mrs. Sullivan came into my room. Ethan, I need to speak with you. We hadn't really spoken since she apologized for the bracelet incident. I had no idea what she wanted. I put on a polite smile. Yes, Mrs. Sullivan? You and Chloe seem to be getting quite close lately, she said, her tone casual, but her meaning was crystal clear. Not really, I lied. We barely talk. Her expression turned serious. I've told you before, I want Aiden to be Chloe's husband. Whatever is going on between you two, I will not allow it to continue. She was laying down the law. I gave her an easy smile. Don't worry, Mrs. Sullivan. I have no interest in Chloe. Good, she said, visibly relieved. A satisfied smile spread across her face. My other 4 daughters are all wonderful girls. You can choose any one of them. You're a smart boy, Ethan. I'm sure you know what the right thing to do is. Her little speech didn't bother me. After she left, I sent a message to Grace. Grace, can you send me a few bottles of that special liniment? She replied, Ethan, what kind of trouble have you gotten into now? I rolled my eyes at her response. Just then, Laura walked in. Mr. Hayes, feeling any better? She asked, sitting down beside my bed as if we were old friends. I kept my expression neutral. What can I do for you, Miss Sullivan? I just came to see how you were, she said with a smile that was impossible to read. I didn't remember having any real conversation with her before. This felt like a wolf visiting a sheep. If you have something to say, just say it. A sly smile played on her lips. And what if I said I'm a little interested in you? I had to stop myself from rolling my eyes. Do you really expect me to believe that? She leaned in closer, her smile growing. Why not? You don't believe me? That hurts my feelings. I gave her a look. Please have some self-respect. She just laughed. I'm serious, Ethan. At that exact moment, Chloe pushed the door open and saw Laura leaning intimately over me. Chloe's eyes darkened. Am I interrupting something? The scene was clearly not what she had expected. Laura saw the look on her sister's face and felt a surge of triumph. Not at all. We were just both so worried about Ethan. She deliberately used my first name, her voice dripping with false intimacy. Was Laura actually interested in me? A complex, unreadable expression crossed Chloe's face. She just grunted in acknowledgement and walked out. Laura, having successfully gotten under her sister's skin, was in a great mood. As she left, she told me to take good care of myself. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken tension. That, combined with my injury, prompted Mr. Sullivan to call an end to the outing. They all headed home, and I was taken to the hospital where Sarah worked. Mr. Sullivan paid me a visit at the hospital. He looked at me, a sad, nostalgic look in his eyes. Ethan, how are you feeling? I'm so sorry about this. My children should have been looking out for you. I felt a warmth spread through my chest. Sir, it was my own fault. I wasn't watching where I was going. It had nothing to do with them. He took my hand. Ethan, I want you to know whichever of my daughters marries you, I will give her a 20% stake in the Sullivan Group, plus our 20 properties in the city. No one will ever mistreat you. It was a solemn promise. I was deeply moved. Just outside the door, Sarah was about to knock when she overheard her father's words. She froze, her hand hovering in midair. Marrying Ethan Hayes meant getting all of that? Each of the sisters only held a 5% stake in the company, but his future wife would get 20%. Mr. Sullivan said a few more words, then took a call and had to rush off. Sarah stood in the hallway, trying to contain her excitement. She took a deep breath to compose herself before finally walking into my room. The moment she saw me, her expression softened. She came over to my bed and gently examined my ankle. Does this still hurt? Even though I knew she was just being a doctor, her touch made me feel strangely uncomfortable. I forced a smile. It's much better, thanks. She gave me a warm, gentle smile. I'm glad. If you need anything at all, don't hesitate to call me. Her sudden attentiveness was unsettling. I couldn't figure out why Sarah, who had been so cold to me before, was suddenly acting so concerned. I was still puzzling over it long after she left. In the days I spent in the hospital, Chloe never once came to visit. I knew it was a relatively quiet period for the company, so she shouldn't have been that busy. I figured she was avoiding me because of what happened with Laura at the hiking trail. So, on my first day back at work, I made a point of telling everyone I was riding with Chloe. Miss Sullivan is so kind. I'm sure she won't mind giving me a lift, I said, hopping into her passenger seat and buckling up. Why don't you ride with Laura? Chloe asked, her voice flat. I just smiled. Because I prefer your car. Now hurry up, or we'll be late. Unable to argue, she had no choice but to drive me to work. On the way, I just stared out the window, the wind messing up my hair. Finally, Chloe broke the silence. What's going on between you and Laura? I turned to look at her. Nothing. But the other day, you too. She began, hesitating. I just smiled, believing the first thing you see without asking questions. That doesn't seem very smart, Chloe. And you're a very smart woman. She was taken aback for a second, and then the corners of her mouth turned up in a small smile. I saw it and pounced. What's this? You're so concerned about my love life. Chloe, don't tell me you're starting to like me. Her face immediately flushed. You talk too much. I burst out laughing. The great Chloe Sullivan, blushing. This was priceless. To stop me from saying anything else, she floored it and we got to the office in record time. When I walked into the design department, I saw an unwelcome face. Aiden Carter was sitting at the department head's desk. He beamed when he saw me. Ethan, you're back. Are you feeling all better? He asked, though I knew he wished I'd never recover. I just waved a hand dismissively. Thanks for your concern, Mr. Carter. I'm fine. He then added with a smile. That's great. Oh, by the way, Chloe mentioned the department needed a new director, so I volunteered. I hope you don't mind. I laughed. Of course not. You're the man who's going to marry the CEO. A department director is a small price to pay. Aiden's face went pale. Ethan, how can you say that? I was just worried you'd be upset. After all, I come in as your boss while you're still just a junior associate. It's only natural that you'd be a little resentful. It was obvious he was trying to make me feel inferior. So what if he had a fancy degree? Chloe still gave him a position of authority over me. I scoffed. What, are you a mind reader now? You know exactly how I feel? In the time you've wasted making small talk, you could have drafted 2 proposals. You should focus more of your energy on company business and less on pointless games. Aiden was fuming, knowing he couldn't win an argument with me. We parted on that sour note, and I went back to my desk to focus on my work. Around noon, I went to Chloe's office to discuss the next phase of the project, only to find Aiden in there, pestering her. Chloe, it's lunchtime. Let's go eat together, he was saying. I was about to turn and leave when Chloe called out, Ethan, come in. I paused at the door, my eyes fixed on them. Am I interrupting something? Come in, she repeated. We need to discuss the proposal. The clear dismissal left Aiden stunned. He couldn't believe that Chloe, who had never turned him down before, was now brushing him aside for me. He was seething, but he put on a wounded expression. Chloe, I asked you first. Chloe's voice was firm. Company business comes first. Is that a problem? Rejected again, Aiden bit his lip and said nothing. After he left, I watched his dejected retreat and couldn't help but smirk. Are you sure you want to be so cruel to your childhood sweetheart? Chloe shot me a look. The proposal. I chuckled. I guess Laura was right. You really are a workaholic. She didn't reply, just focused her attention on the documents in front of her. By the time we finished revising the proposal, it was already 3 in the afternoon. My stomach chose that moment to let out a loud growl. Chloe raised an eyebrow. Come on, I'll take you to get something to eat. She took me to a small, unassuming noodle shop, one of her personal favorites. We both ordered a bowl of ramen. I couldn't help but smile. I'm surprised a woman like you eats at a place like this. Even here, every move she made was filled with an effortless grace. She took a bite and said coolly, What did you expect me to eat? Filet mignon? Sushi? I shook my head. I just never pictured you enjoying a simple, homey meal like this. My smile widened. Then, my expression turned serious. I love it too, actually. My dad used to make noodles for me all the time when I was a kid. Nothing else ever tasted as good. It's a shame things change. You can never go back. Chloe didn't say anything, just quietly ate her noodles, but I could tell my words had affected her. It was the first time I'd ever mentioned my family to her, and even though it was just a passing comment, it seemed to resonate with her. When we got back to the office, I was about to sit down at my desk when a colleague tapped me on the shoulder. "Ethan, you need to see this. Check Twitter. You're in trouble." My stomach dropped. I pulled up Twitter, and the headline was impossible to miss. Ethan Hayes, Sullivan fiancé, caught in intimate moment with mystery blonde. Inside Ethan Hayes' double life. Is the Sullivan heiress's fiancé a secret womanizer? The Ethan Hayes saga. With so many women, who will win his heart? The post included a blurry photo from the underground auction, showing me and Bianca. We were both laughing, and the angle made it look incredibly intimate. Even though we were both wearing sunglasses, you could still tell it was us. I narrowed my eyes, a cold fury rising in me. I knew exactly who was responsible for this. I immediately called Grace and told her to kill the story. At the same time, I got a summons from Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan to return to the mansion immediately. As I was leaving the office, I saw Chloe heading out as well. She just gave me a single, cool glance before turning and walking away without a word. She had clearly seen the news. I walked into the Sullivan mansion to find the entire family waiting for me. Mrs. Sullivan immediately launched into a tirade. "I thought you were a decent young man. I never imagined you were this kind of person." I frowned but didn't argue, just saying quietly, "It's a misunderstanding." Her anger flared. "You don't have to like my daughters. But how dare you promise to get to know them while you're sneaking around with other women? Have you no respect for your agreement with Robert?" I knew if I didn't clear this up, I would lose Mr. Sullivan's trust as well. Lily, who had never liked me, sneered, "Ethan, the proof is right there in the picture. Just admit it." I shook my head. "It's not what it looks like. She's just a friend from my past, someone I studied with." Lily's gaze was icy. "Even so, that looked pretty intimate for just a friend. The evidence is right there, and you're still making excuses." Mr. Sullivan frowned, his expression conflicted. He looked at me and asked calmly, "Ethan, is it true? Are you involved with this woman?" I met his gaze and said steadily, "Mr. Sullivan, she is just an old friend. If you don't believe me, I can call her right now." Mrs. Sullivan sneered. "And what would a phone call prove? You could have coached her on what to say." Just then, Jessie, who had been scrolling on her phone, gasped, "You guys, look at Twitter. A famous international celebrity just posted something. It's the woman from the picture." The tweet read, "I am happily engaged and getting married this June. Ethan Hayes is like a little brother to me. Our shared mentor asked me to look out for him. There is nothing more to it. I hope everyone will stop spreading these hurtful rumors and leave him alone." Bianca Frost was a huge international star. No one would dare question her word. Instantly, the narrative shifted. People started wondering who took the photo in the first place, and who would be pathetic enough to try and frame me. Mrs. Sullivan, who had been so furious moments before, was suddenly silent. A satisfied smile spread across Mr. Sullivan's face. "I knew it. My faith in you was not misplaced. Ethan, I'm sorry you had to go through that." I nodded and smiled. "Thank you for trusting me, sir." Lily looked a little embarrassed. She rubbed her nose and said stubbornly, "I'm sorry, but I still don't like you." I gave her an indifferent glance. "All right, it's over," Mr. Sullivan announced, waving a hand dismissively. "Let's drop it." With that, the family meeting was adjourned. Chloe stood a short distance away, watching me handle the situation with a calm and steady demeanor. I could see a new emotion in her eyes. I caught her gaze, tilted my head, and smiled. "Did you think I was cheating too?" She didn't answer, which was an answer in itself. She admitted to herself that the photo had bothered her, but she hadn't been ready to believe the worst of me. I looked at her, my own smile fading. The moment the crisis was over, I had Grace investigate the source of the leak. Unsurprisingly, it was Aiden. He had paid off a photographer to get the picture and leak it to the press. It seemed the hit his company took wasn't enough to keep him in line. Grace sent out the directive immediately. All existing and future contracts between Azure Holdings and Carter Corp were terminated. All current joint ventures were to be dissolved immediately, regardless of the penalty fees. Grace's voice was cold. It was Aiden again. "Don't worry, Ethan. I won't let him get away with it this time." Losing their partnership with Azure would cost Carter Corp a massive source of revenue, easily in the hundreds of millions. Azure Holdings publicly announced the termination of their partnership with Carter Corp, which made Chloe suspicious. Every time something bad happened to me, Carter Corp seemed to suffer a major setback. Was Grace using her power to get revenge on Aiden on my behalf? One day, as I was finishing up a proposal and getting ready to leave, Chloe stopped me. "The crisis at Carter Corp, was that you?" I paused, then laughed. What? You think I have the power to cripple a company that size? Her expression was grave. Maybe not you, but Grace Vaughn does. Azure Holdings does. Ethan, I know Aiden can be difficult, but you don't have to go after him like this. My voice turned to ice. You're very concerned about him. So concerned you're here accusing me on his behalf. Chloe frowned. That wasn't what she meant at all. I looked her straight in the eye. And are you sure Aiden is as innocent as you think he is? She remembered how, as a child, he would cry if he accidentally stepped on an ant. I don't think he's a bad person deep down, she said quietly. I stood up. If that's what you believe, then there's nothing more to say. My voice was flat. Carter Corp's crisis is its own making. Azure's decision to cut ties has nothing to do with me. If you're so determined to find a conspiracy, maybe you should call the CEO of Azure and ask them yourself, instead of harassing your employees. With that, I turned and walked out. The Sullivan Group's annual anniversary gala was coming up, a major event with a guest list of the city's elite. Chloe put Aiden in charge of planning the entire thing. When I heard the news, the pen in my hand faltered. So she really did like him. No wonder she was always defending him. Her heart was already taken. After work, I called Grace and told her to meet me at a bar. At the bar, Grace swirled the drink in her glass and smiled. You in a bad mood? What happened? Did the Sullivans finally get to you? I threw back my whiskey in one gulp. I told you that's not possible. Grace rolled her eyes. Then why did you drag me out here to drink with you while you sulk? I gave her a light tap on the head. Hey, if you don't want to drink, you can leave. She rubbed her forehead. All right, I'm drinking. I kept downing drinks and soon I was starting to feel a buzz. I decided we should play a game. We'd spin a bottle and whoever it landed on had to go try and pick someone up. If you failed, you had to take 3 shots. Grace lost the first round. She walked over to some guy at the bar and came back 2 minutes later with his number. On the second spin, the bottle landed on me. I staggered to my feet and headed toward a group of people across the room. In that group was Chloe, who frowned as she watched my drunken approach. Was that Ethan? I chuckled, pointing a wobbly finger around their table before it landed on her. You're the best-looking one here. You'll do. Chloe just sat there silently, waiting to see what I would do next. So beautiful, I slurred. What do you think? The alcohol had made me warm, and I'd unbuttoned the top of my shirt, giving me a disheveled, reckless look. I leaned over her, my hand brushing against her hair. Her scent was intoxicating. A flash of annoyance crossed her face. She pushed me back into a sitting position on the couch, her eyes like ice. Ethan, what do you think you're doing? Hearing her voice, I blinked, confused. Huh? Chloe? Oh, never mind. I pass. I tried to stand up, but she pushed me back down. Stay put. You're drunk. I just laughed. I said I pass. Why are you still bothering me? She pulled me to my feet and started guiding me toward the hotel attached to the bar. You're too drunk to be wandering around. You'll get yourself into trouble. I was pretty much gone at that point and started rambling. Chloe Sullivan is the most annoying person on the planet. Her expression hardened. Why do you hate her? She asked. That question seemed to open the floodgates. I started complaining. Why does she never believe me? She always takes other people's side against me. It's so unfair. Chloe sighed. She cares about you. She's not trying to hurt you. I frowned. You're lying. She likes Aiden. That's why she always helps him bully me. She had never seen me like this, acting like a hurt little kid. It was surprisingly endearing. She'll believe you in the future, she said softly, and she won't let anyone hurt you. But she likes Aiden, I mumbled. She'll always choose him. With that, I finally passed out. Chloe looked down at my sleeping face and whispered, When did I ever say I liked Aiden? I woke up late the next morning with a pounding headache. I checked my phone to see a flood of missed calls and messages, all from Grace. I sent her a quick text to let her know I was alive, then tried to piece together the previous night. I remembered seeing Chloe and hitting on her. After that, it was all a blur. I rubbed my temples, got cleaned up, and headed to the office. Aiden was getting a lot of praise for the gala he had planned, and everyone was fawning over him, the childhood friend of the Sullivan sisters. Mr. Carter, you and Ms. Sullivan go way back, don't you? You two must be very close. It's clear she's very fond of you. I couldn't put a name to the feeling in my gut. I just went back to my desk, but I could still overhear their gossip. Then someone asked, but isn't Ethan Hayes the one with the marriage pact? What if he chooses Ms. Sullivan? Aiden's smile vanished, his face clouding over, but he quickly recovered, forcing a smile. Oh, Ethan doesn't like Chloe. He told me so himself. Don't worry. I heard his blatant lie and couldn't help but laugh out loud. Mr. Carter, We barely know each other. Why would I ever tell you something like that? Aiden hadn't realized I was standing there. His face fell, but he mumbled, "That's what you said. But it's okay if you've changed your mind. After all, Chloe is." I just laughed. What's the matter? Am I not allowed to like Chloe? Aiden was left speechless and embarrassed. Just then, Chloe walked by. He immediately went over to her, a smile back on his face. "Chloe, I've finished the setup for the gala tonight. Do you want to come see it?" Chloe's expression was as cool as ever. She glanced over at me and said, "Ethan was late today. Dock his pay for 3 days." I glared at her, fuming. She avoided my gaze and left with Aiden to inspect the venue. Half an hour later, her secretary came to my desk. "Mr. Hayes," she said quietly, "Miss Sullivan would like to see you in her office." The last thing I wanted was to talk to her, but the secretary looked so nervous that I sighed and went to her office. "You wanted to see me?" I asked, stopping a good distance from her desk. She pointed to a large box on her desk. "You're my date to the gala tonight." It was an invitation, but it sounded more like a command. I was surprised. "Me? Your childhood sweetheart won't be happy about that." She frowned, clearly not in the mood for banter. She picked up the box and pushed it into my hands. "This is your tuxedo for tonight. Make sure you wear it." I crossed my arms and grinned. "And what if I say no?" Her voice was low and serious. "Then I'll dock your pay for half a month." I was speechless. I just took the box and walked out. Chloe watched me leave, a thoughtful look in her eyes. She replayed her own harsh words in her mind and realized she'd been acting irrationally lately. Just then, Aiden saw me walk out of her office carrying the large box, and his expression turned to ice. That evening, I took the box to a restroom to change. But when I opened it, I found the tuxedo inside had been slashed to ribbons. It was obviously deliberate. I threw the ruined tux in the trash and was about to go find a replacement when I realized the door had been locked from the outside. I pulled out my phone to call for help, but the battery was dead. I frowned. This was not my day. Meanwhile, Chloe was waiting, and I was nowhere to be seen. She started to feel uneasy. She tried calling my phone, but it went straight to voicemail, which only made her more worried. Just as she was about to go look for me, Aiden appeared, a warm smile on his face. "Chloe, are you waiting for someone?" he asked. She nodded, her eyes still scanning the crowd. Seeing her distracted state, he said gently, "Chloe, I just saw Ethan. He said he had to run to the restroom and didn't want to hold you up, so he said we should go on in without him." He said it with such sincerity that it sounded completely plausible. Chloe nodded and walked into the gala with him. The reporters at the entrance immediately started snapping photos of the two of them together. Aiden, wanting to fuel the media frenzy, even leaned in a little closer to her. A few minutes later, another stir went through the crowd at the entrance, just as big as the one for their arrival. Chloe looked over, curious, and saw two people making their entrance. Laura, smiling brightly, and me. I was wearing a sharp white tuxedo, looking every bit the part of a dashing gentleman. An icy look came over Chloe's face. The tuxedo she had given me was black. Did I hate her so much that I had deliberately stood her up and arrived with her sister instead? Laura spotted Chloe and beamed. "Chloe, you're here already." Aiden, seeing me standing there in a brand new tuxedo, was completely dumbfounded. My smile was cold. "Mr. Carter, you look surprised to see me." He snapped out of his shock and shook his head. "No, not at all. I was just surprised to see you two arrive together." I glanced at Laura beside me and smiled. "Yes, well, thanks to your sister's timely rescue, I'd probably still be locked in that restroom. I wonder who would be so malicious as to break the lock and destroy my tuxedo." Aiden's fists clenched, but he forced a smile. "Yes, that's terrible." Just then, Chloe cut in, seemingly coming to Aiden's defense. "All right, that's enough. The gala is starting. As long as you're okay, that's all that matters." My retort died on my lips, and I shot her an annoyed look. Then I turned to Laura, extending my hand in a formal bow. "The music is starting, Miss Sullivan. May I have this dance?" Laura smiled and took my hand. "Of course. I'd be honored." We moved to the dance floor, our movements perfectly in sync. Soon, all the other couples had stopped dancing, content to just watch us, a perfectly matched pair. The handsome man and the beautiful woman, a perfect couple. Chloe watched us dance, and a strange, unpleasant feeling washed over her. Her usual composure began to slip. Laura wasn't right for him, not at all. Aiden saw his chance. "Chloe, should we dance?" he asked eagerly. He had been practicing for this night, hoping to impress her. But Chloe was in no mood to dance. "No," she said flatly, then walked over to the bar and ordered a drink. A few moments later, she felt a strange heat spreading through her body. Her senses, always sharp, told her immediately what was wrong. Someone had drugged her drink. Aiden followed her to the bar. Seeing the sweat beading on her forehead, he asked with concern, "Chloe, are you all right?" While she was still thinking clearly, she said in a cold voice, "I'm fine, go away." He reached out and touched her forehead. It was burning up. He sat down next to her. "You feel like you have a fever. Let me take you to a doctor." The drug was already making her feel terrible, and his touch made it 1,000 times worse. To get away from him, she stood up, ignored his feigned concern, and headed for the elevator, planning to go to her office. Aiden just chuckled and followed her. After my dance with Laura, I instinctively scanned the room for Chloe, but she and Aiden were both gone. Laura seemed to read my mind. "Looking for my sister?" she asked with a sly smile. "I just saw Aiden take her upstairs. If you're curious, you could always go check it out." She was betting I wouldn't want to be a third wheel. My voice was flat. "I'm not interested." But a second later, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Chloe. Just 3 words. "Upstairs. Print room." I turned off my phone screen. Out of sight, out of mind. But the more I thought about it, the more it felt wrong. Chloe wasn't a reckless person. She would never do something like that, especially not during a major company event. I sighed, stood up, and headed for the stairs. Chloe had been smart. Instead of her office, she had gone to the print room. She was slumped on the floor, her body weak, using the last of her strength to text me. She had a feeling that I, of all people, would know what to do. When I got there, I could see she was struggling to stay conscious. I knew a little about medicine, and I could tell she'd been given a powerful drug. Even someone with her iron will was losing the fight. She managed a faint sound, and her eyes fluttered open. Seeing me, she suddenly reached out and grabbed my wrist. "Chloe, what are you doing?" Before I could react, she pulled herself toward me, her eyes burning with a feverish intensity. As her lips got closer, I quickly shifted my weight, pinning her arms. When she still struggled, I used a pressure point on her neck to make her pass out. So much trouble. I stood up and shot a cold look at the unconscious woman, trying to take advantage of me in her state. Unbelievable. Calling an ambulance would cause a scene, so I called the Sullivans' head of security and had them discreetly take her to the hospital. The next day, Chloe woke up to see me sitting by her bed, my expression unreadable. Her eyes widened in surprise. "You stayed here all night?" I ignored her question and said sarcastically, "You're not very careful, are you, Miss Sullivan? Letting someone drug you like that." She knew I was right, so she didn't argue. "Well, now that you're awake, I'm leaving," I said, turning to go. "Laura is very interested in you," she said suddenly. I raised an eyebrow. "And? What's that got to do with you?" "Laura, she's always been competitive with me. She always has to win. I'm worried she's only pursuing you to get at me. Not because she actually likes you," she admitted. I couldn't help but grin. "So, what you're saying is, you're interested in me, and that's why Laura is trying to steal me away?" She was caught off guard by my interpretation and was suddenly speechless. When she didn't answer, I dropped it. After she rested a bit more, we both headed to the office. Aiden's plan had failed, and he was clearly furious, shooting me a hateful look the moment he saw me. Where had they been all night? And Chloe had been drugged? Did they? The more he thought about it, the more his imagination ran wild, and he started glaring at me with pure venom in his eyes. I couldn't resist messing with him. "Mr. Carter, are you curious about what we did last night?" His face contorted. "What did you do last night?" "Last night," I said with a smirk. "A man and a woman, all alone. What do you think happened?" Aiden's fists were clenched so tight his knuckles were white, his eyes bloodshot with rage. After work, I took a cab home myself instead of riding with Chloe. At dinner, Jessie mentioned she was shooting a music video for her new song the next day. Mr. Sullivan thought it would be a good opportunity for us to spend time together and suggested I go along. Lily immediately protested, "Dad, he'll just get in the way." Ever since the kidnapping incident, Lily had decided I was a trouble magnet. So, just to annoy her, I said, "That sounds great. I'd love to go." She looked like she was about to explode and shot me a look that could kill. The next morning, I went with Jessie to the video shoot. The new song was a sweet, melodic love song, perfectly suited for the current pop charts. I knew from the first few bars it was going to be a massive hit. "It's a great song," I commented, "but if you lowered the key a little at the end and made the vocals a bit more intimate, it would be even better." Jessie looked at me surprised. I actually knew something about music. I saw her expression and just smiled, saying nothing more. Of course, a love song needs a male lead, but after waiting for hours, the actor still hadn't shown up. The director finally got him on the phone and found out he'd been in a car accident on the way to the set. He wouldn't be able to make it. The director was panicking. They had spent weeks casting the perfect actor, and now they'd never find a replacement on such short notice. Where was he going to find a handsome guy with that perfect, youthful energy? Suddenly, Jessie walked up to him. "Director, I think I have the perfect person." She pointed over to where I was sitting. The breeze was blowing through my hair, and I guess I looked the part of a young, romantic lead. The director's eyes lit up. "He's perfect." He came over and pitched the idea to me. I didn't want to let Jessie down, so I agreed. After a quick trip to hair and makeup, we started shooting. Thanks to my natural good looks and surprising acting ability, we wrapped up in no time. "I have an idea," Jessie said, her expression earnest. "Why don't you record the song with me? Since you're the star of the video, it would be even better if you were on the track too." She was so sincere I couldn't say no. I thought about it for a second and agreed. The day it was released, the song, titled Sweet Tea, exploded online. It shot straight to the top of the charts. Fans raved about the mystery male vocalist, whose voice was as smooth as velvet. They also noticed that his singing style was almost identical to that of the famous singer Xylo. "He's totally ripping off Xylo," one comment read. Soon, that accusation was everywhere. As the controversy grew, the song's streaming numbers started to take a hit. Jessie realized how serious the situation was and came straight to the Sullivan Group offices to find me. I was in a meeting with Chloe, discussing a new partnership, when she burst in. I just raised an eyebrow at the news. I couldn't help but laugh. "So, they're saying I'm a Xylo impersonator?" Jessie frowned at my casual attitude. "Ethan, this is serious." Seeing how calm I was, a wild thought suddenly occurred to Chloe. She didn't say anything, just watched me, a thoughtful expression on her face, waiting to see what I would do. I gave Jessie a reassuring smile. "Don't worry, I'll handle this. It won't affect your song." For some reason, my calm confidence was enough to put her completely at ease. "Okay," she said. Just then, Aiden knocked and walked in. Seeing us all gathered, he asked, "I heard there's some trouble with Jessie's new song. What's going on?" I just glanced at him and said nothing. Rebuffed, he tried to act helpful. "You know, if the accusations are true, the best thing to do would be to issue a public apology on Twitter. People might forgive you. An apology? At this point, that would be career suicide, not just for me but for Jessie too." I just said flatly, "I'm not going to apologize." Aiden immediately got agitated. "Ethan, even if you don't care about your own reputation, think about Jessie. If you have any decency, you'll apologize. This could ruin her career." I just replied calmly, "Don't worry, I won't let her take the fall for this." "Then what's your plan?" he demanded. "You can't deny it. The imitation is obvious." A spark of amusement lit in my eyes. "And what if I have another way out of this?" Aiden clearly didn't believe me. He had already looked into it. Xylo was a recluse who had dropped out of the public eye. There was no way Ethan Hayes was Xylo. He was already a highly accomplished academic. How could he possibly have time for a secret music career? The idea was laughable. Aiden's face was a mask of scorn. "What other plan could you possibly have? Are you going to tell everyone you're Xylo? Who's going to believe that?" I just said quietly, "Actually, I am." At my words, Jessie's jaw dropped. The man she was supposed to potentially marry was Xylo, the artist she admired more than anyone. Even Chloe looked surprised. Aiden just shook his head and sighed. "Stop lying. You're just digging yourself into a deeper hole." I didn't bother arguing. I just took out my phone, opened Twitter, and switched to a different account. A notification popped up on Jessie's phone. The one and only account she followed, an account that had been silent for over a year, had just posted a new tweet. It was only 4 words, but they were world-shaking. "I am Ethan Hayes." In an instant, the internet exploded. The tweet was retweeted millions of times. Fans were ecstatic. "I knew it. I told you Ethan was Xylo and you didn't believe me. In your face. Everyone who said he was an imitator can eat their words. So that's what Xylo looks like? He's so hot in the music video. He's handsome, talented, a genius, and he gets to choose between 5 gorgeous heiresses? This is literally the plot of a romance novel. Xylo's new song is amazing. My husband's voice is so sexy. I'm going to listen to it on repeat forever. Back off. He's my husband." In less than a minute, the entire narrative had flipped. The song's streaming numbers skyrocketed, surpassing their previous peak. The look on Aiden's face was priceless. How could Ethan Hayes possibly be Xylo? A toxic mix of disappointment, jealousy, and pure hatred washed over him. He clenched his fists, staring at my face, wanting nothing more than to punch it. But he restrained himself and forced out, "Well, I'm glad it all worked out." I just smiled. But a moment ago, Mr. Carter, you were accusing me of being a fraud. Don't you think you owe me an apology? He wanted to curse me out, but he forced a smile and said, I'm sorry, Ethan. I was mistaken. It's all right, I said magnanimously. I forgive you. He had come to watch me crash and burn, and now he couldn't stand to be in the room for another second. After he left, Jessie, who had finally composed herself, spoke, her voice trembling with excitement. Ethan, Xylo, you're my idol. I love your music so much. He had won the industry's highest award in his debut year and then vanished. No one had come close to his level of success since. I just smiled. It's no big deal. I'm just a regular guy. And I hope we can work together again soon. The thought of collaborating with her idol had Jessie practically floating on air. I just nodded and smiled. Jessie left to go deal with the PR fallout, leaving just Chloe and me in the office. Chloe raised an eyebrow, her gaze intense. I never would have guessed. You have a lot of hidden talents. I laughed. You're too kind, Miss Sullivan. Must you be so formal? For some reason, my polite, distant tone seemed to make her uncomfortable. I raised an eyebrow. How should I talk to you then? She paused, but didn't answer. When we got back to the mansion, the atmosphere between us was so strange that even her family noticed. Lily, noticing her sister's bad mood, suggested, I heard they opened a new track at Serpent's Pass. Wanna go check it out? Mr. Sullivan smiled. That's a great idea. You should take Ethan with you. Lily pouted. Dad, he's a hick. He's probably never even been in a fast car. He'll probably just scream the whole time. Then her eyes lit up. I wonder if we'll see that guy who broke Chloe's record. He must be so cool and handsome. Seeing the worshipful look on her face, I calmly burst her bubble. That was me. She shot to her feet. No way. I don't believe you. I just shrugged. Believe what you want. She snorted. If it was really you, then you're coming with us tomorrow to prove it. Let's see if you can even handle getting behind the wheel. I wasn't gonna let her off that easy. And what if I am? If you are, she declared, I'll stop calling you a hick. I smiled. And you'll call me your big brother. She was sure she would win. Deal. And if you're not, you have to leave our house forever. I just laughed even harder. Deal. The next day, Lily woke me up herself and dragged Chloe along with us to Serpent's Pass. Lily was a huge racing fan and had always idolized Chloe for her skills. But ever since the mystery driver broke her record, she had a new hero to fantasize about. I changed into a red racing suit that made me look sharp and bold. Chloe's suit was also red, and standing next to each other, we looked like a team. Lily sneered, if you can't handle it, don't embarrass yourself. You can still back out. I just slid into the driver's seat and buckled up. Just watch. The engine roared to life and the car shot off the line like a rocket. Lily watched, still skeptical at first, but by the end of the run, her jaw was on the floor. He's. Chloe leaned over and whispered. I looked into it. The driver from last time. It was him. Chloe. Lily whined. Why didn't you tell me? Chloe just crossed her arms and said nothing. When I got out of the car, Lily's earlier bravado was gone. She shuffled over to me, looking at the ground, and mumbled, Ethan, big brother. I grinned and nodded. Good girl. Chloe looked at my confident smirk and said, how about we race? I just shook my head. I'm not racing you. Lily immediately jumped in. Come on, big brother, race her. I've never seen anyone beat my sister. A small smile played on Chloe's lips. Scared, my competitive streak flared up. Fine, you're on. This new track. First one back wins. We both got into our cars and at the signal we were off. I was clearly the more skilled driver, but Chloe was incredibly steady so she wasn't falling far behind. I was only a few feet ahead of her. I was about to hit the gas and pull away when I felt something wrong. Chloe noticed my hesitation. What is it? She asked over the comms. I glanced at the fuel gauge and said flatly, I'm out of gas. We were going at an incredible speed. If the engine cut out now, the car would spin out of control and the force would send me flying. Chloe saw the trail of gasoline leaking from the back of my car. Don't panic. Hold on. She floored it, pulling up right alongside me. You have to jump. I kept one hand on the wheel while I unbuckled my harness with the other. The sharp turns of the track made it nearly impossible. Finally, I got it free, stood up on my seat, and leaped. The momentum sent me tumbling right into Chloe's passenger seat, practically on top of her. I heard her grunt from the impact and asked anxiously, Chloe, are you okay? She shook her head, slowly bringing her car to a safer speed. Behind us, my car's engine seized. It spun out, flipped into the air, and crashed, a mangled wreck. When we got back to the base, Lily was frantic. She had heard the crash. What happened? She cried, rushing over to us. I heard a huge explosion. Was that your car? I helped Chloe out of the car. Her face was grim. I don't know, she said, her voice like ice. The car just ran out of gas. She told Lily to have someone from the track deal with the wreckage. I thought for a moment. I think someone did this on purpose. Chloe agreed. The track's cars were inspected daily. A sudden, catastrophic fuel leak was impossible. We went to check the security footage, but the recordings from the previous night were gone. Someone had deliberately erased them. With no evidence and no culprit, we were at a dead end. To be safe, Chloe suggested we head back to the mansion and figure out our next move there. Okay, I said. I'm just going to use the restroom first. I nodded and headed off. Inside the restroom, I made a quick call. I need you to pull the security footage from the main entrance to Serpent's Pass. Get me a list of everyone who's entered or exited in the last 48 hours. After that, I rejoined the two sisters and we left. When we got back to the mansion, the staff was decorating with balloons. It turned out tomorrow was Lily's 18th birthday. I decided I should probably go to the mall and get her a gift. Given her love of racing, I figured a custom racing suit would be the perfect gift. I went to a specialty shop, but nothing on the racks seemed quite right. I asked the clerk to show me their most exclusive, collector's edition suit. The clerk got approval from the manager and brought out the most expensive suit in the store. But before I could even touch it, a hand snatched it away. It was Aiden Carter. This is nice, he said. Clerk, wrap it up. The clerk looked uncomfortable. Mr. Carter, sir, this gentleman was looking at that first. Aiden didn't care. I said I want it. Didn't you hear me? But, sir. The clerk started to protest. Aiden cut her off arrogantly. But nothing. My family owns this mall. If you want to keep your job, you'll do as I say. The clerk shot me a nervous look. My expression was calm. I was here first. Surely you're not going to take it from me, Mr. Carter. So what if you were first? He sneered. When I want something, I get it. Whether it was the suit or Chloe, he was determined to win. I stepped closer, glanced at the suit, then looked down at him. You're absolutely sure you want this suit? He just laughed arrogantly. It's in my family's mall. I can have whatever I want. I just chuckled. If you want it that badly, Mr. Carter, be my guest. The next day was Lily's birthday party, and the Sullivans had invited Aiden to attend. When it was time to open presents, Lily gasped when she opened Aiden's gift. Oh my God, this racing suit is amazing. You shouldn't have. Thank you, Aiden. He just smiled. Don't mention it. It wasn't that expensive. Then he shot me a smug look. When she got to my gift, it was just a small box. Aiden put on a concerned expression. Ethan, that seems a little underwhelming, don't you think? Lily opened the box and saw a car key inside. She gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. No way. This is the key to my dream car. The one-of-a-kind Bugatti La Voix Noire. It's priceless. Big brother, you're a magician. How do you get these things? She was overjoyed. For her, this gift meant more than all the others combined. Aiden looked at the racing suit he'd given her and suddenly felt that his gift was the pathetic one. I took a sip of my drink and said casually, I guess Carter Corp is doing so well they can afford to look down on a gift like that. Aiden was so humiliated he couldn't even look up, just sat there clenching his fists under the table. Chloe's gift was last, and Lily was buzzing with anticipation. Inside the box was a legal document. You've always loved Serpent's Pass, Chloe said. Now that you're 18, it's yours. Chloe's gift was another showstopper. Compared to that, the presents from Laura, Sarah, and Jesse seemed modest. When the party was over, Mr. Sullivan arranged for a driver to take Aiden home. He looked outside and said, Could Chloe ride with me? I have something I'd like to talk to her about in private. Chloe declined politely. I'm sorry, I have some work to finish up. I don't have time. Oh, he said with an awkward smile. All right then, I'll just go by myself. Mrs. Sullivan immediately jumped in. Chloe, Aiden asked you to take him home. Just do it. But Mom, Chloe said, not moving. No buts. Are you trying to give me a heart attack? Mrs. Sullivan fumed, clutching her chest dramatically. You children will be the death of me. Defeated, Chloe agreed to ride with him. In the car, Aiden looked over at her. Chloe, thanks for this. She just stared out the window. Don't mention it. He was taken aback by her coldness. But Chloe, you used to like me so much when we were kids. You were always holding my hand, asking me to take you to get ice cream to go to the amusement park. Have you forgotten all that? She pursed her lips. We were just kids. I was young. But he said, turning to face her, his eyes filled with a deep, soulful look. But I love you. I've loved you for almost 10 years. A flicker of surprise crossed her face. What? His voice grew even more intense. Chloe, I've been in love with you since the first day I met you. I loved it when you followed me around everywhere. Didn't you know? My entire life, my only dream has been to marry you. His heartfelt confession did nothing to thaw her. Her voice was still ice. Aiden, find someone else. No, he said, suddenly leaning in to kiss her, but she pushed him away forcefully. Aiden, you need to get a grip. It's never going to happen between us, she said, her eyes cold. If you can't accept that, then we can't be friends anymore. When they arrived at his house, she had the driver turn around and head straight back without another word. Aiden watched the car drive away, a furious hatred building inside him. It was all because of that hick, Ethan Hayes. If it weren't for him, Chloe would never treat me like this. Ethan Hayes, you're going to pay for this. He suppressed his rage, took out his phone, and made a call. It was after 1 a.m. when Chloe finally got home. I was downstairs getting a glass of water when she walked in, looking exhausted. I couldn't resist a little jab. Decided to come home, did you? She ignored my question and asked one of her own. Why are you still awake? I just laughed. I was thirsty. What? Did you think I was waiting up for you? My words seemed to bother her. You should get some sleep, she said. We have a contract signing with a new partner tomorrow. I need you to be there. Without waiting for a reply, she went to her room. The new partners were known for their punctuality, so I got up early the next morning and went straight to the hotel where the meeting was being held. Our partner on this project was the Sterling Corporation, a major player in the jewelry industry. In the current market, they were the only real competitor to Azure Holdings. Sterling's vice president, Melinda, was there to personally negotiate the contract. But as she reviewed the contract, her eyes kept darting over to me. I've read the proposal, she said with a seductive smile. It's very impressive. Was this your work, Mr. Hayes? She stared at me so intensely I felt like she was trying to undress me with her eyes. I was repulsed by her blatant flirting, but I just nodded politely. Yes, it was. If you have any concerns, we can certainly discuss them. She extended a hand to me. I've heard a lot about you, Mr. Hayes. You're even more impressive in person. Perhaps we could discuss the details of this partnership over a private dinner. Chloe saw the woman's hand on mine, and her expression turned to ice. She subtly pulled me back. If you have any questions, Miss Sterling, you can direct them to me. Ethan is my fiancé. I'm fully aware of all his ideas on the matter. My eyes widened. Her fiancé? But to keep the deal from falling apart, I had to play along. Melinda's smile vanished. I wasn't aware you and Mr. Hayes were engaged, Miss Sullivan. It's only a matter of time, Chloe said coolly. Melinda's voice turned sharp. If you're going to be so unpleasant, Miss Sullivan, then perhaps we have nothing further to discuss. I jumped in with a light laugh. Ms. Sterling, my team worked around the clock for a week on this proposal. Are you really going to kill the deal just because you're in a bad mood? She just sneered. Sterling Corporation doesn't need this deal. It's a drop in the bucket for us. With that, she stood up to leave. Then she paused and smiled at me. Of course, if Mr. Hayes were to come and see me personally, perhaps we could still find a way to make this work. Chloe's face was a mask of ice. That won't be necessary, Ms. Sterling. Melinda's expression turned ugly. Fine, have it your way. Sterling Corporation will never do business with the Sullivan Group again. Chloe stepped slightly in front of me and said with a cold smile, the Sullivan Group does not need to resort to such tactics. Melinda was livid. She shot Chloe a hateful look. We'll see about that. Then she stormed out. I was surprised that Chloe had stood up for me like that. I had been about to say something myself, but now I just looked at her and asked, were you just defending me? She met my smiling gaze, and for a second, something flickered in her eyes. Then she looked away. I won't stand by and watch one of my employees be sexually harassed, she said quietly. I knew she wasn't one for emotional displays, so I let it drop. So what now? Sterling just pulled out. This is going to be a big problem for the company. She looked thoughtful. I already have a backup plan. One failed partnership won't sink us. I was curious. What's the plan? I've already been in talks with an international firm, she said. It will be more expensive, but the company can afford it. I pressed her. Why not partner with Azure Holdings? She hesitated. Azure is notoriously difficult to work with. They're unpredictable. Trying to get a meeting with their CEO could take months. I cut her off. Don't worry about it. I'll handle it. I guarantee I can get you a meeting with the CEO of Azure by tomorrow. You? She said, staring at me, a new, intense curiosity in her eyes. I had my own reasons for this. Sterling and Azure were fierce competitors in the jewelry market. A partnership between us and Azure would not only expand our own market share, but would also give Azure a significant advantage over Sterling. Don't worry, I said. It's a win-win. Azure won't say no. Thinking of my connection to Grace Vaughn, Chloe didn't argue. She just nodded. The next day, news of the failed partnership between Sterling and the Sullivan Group was everywhere. Everyone expected the Sullivan Group to take a major hit. But then, a new rumor started to spread. The Sullivan Group was in talks with Azure Holdings. I pulled some strings behind the scenes, and the deal was finalized in 2 days. A week later, our new jewelry line went into production. My plan was to do a limited presale. If it went well, we would move into full-scale production. Less than 10 minutes after the presale went live, I was summoned to Chloe's office. She looked at me, a rare hint of excitement in her voice. Ethan, the entire presale collection sold out in under 5 minutes. I was a little surprised myself. Really? She nodded. Not only that, our website and Twitter feed are being flooded with people demanding we release the full collection. I pulled up Twitter, and the news about our jewelry line was the top trending story. I clicked on the main post, and the comments were overwhelmingly positive. OMG, this jewelry is gorgeous. Gorgeous is an understatement. This collection is better than anything else out there. I still think the designer Aura is the best, but this is pretty good too. Aura's work is legendary. We should just be happy someone is making something this good in a similar style. I kept scrolling, and then my eyes froze on one comment. Wait a minute, doesn't this collection look really familiar? It's like 70% similar to Aura's award-winning design from last year's international design competition. I watched as the comments section exploded, a sense of dread washing over me. I want a refund. I'm not paying for a plagiarized design. A singer should stick to singing. What a joke. A few loyal fans tried to defend me, but they were drowned out by a sea of accusations. Just then, the phone in her office rang. Chloe answered, and her expression grew more and more grim. She hung up and looked at me. The sales department is being flooded with cancellation requests. I wasn't panicked. After a moment, I said calmly, Chloe, tell the sales department to release the First Sight collection. She saw the look of determination on my face, understood, and immediately made the call. The moment the new collection went live, Twitter exploded again. What is going on? The first collection was a ripoff, but this one is a direct copy of Aura's design. Do they have no shame? The Sullivan Group is disgusting. Fire that designer. He's a disgrace. Chloe read the comments, her brow furrowing in concern. I saw the worry on her face and just smiled. Chloe, trust me. This is going to be a huge victory for our new jewelry division. That afternoon, what was supposed to be a launch party had turned into an emergency press conference. Everyone wanted answers. The room was filled with reporters, their cameras all pointed at me. I took the microphone and began. This new jewelry collection is... I was immediately cut off by a reporter. We just want to know why you plagiarized Aura's designs. Don't you have any original ideas of your own? I looked directly into the cameras. I did not plagiarize. The reporter scoffed. There are side-by-side comparisons all over the internet. Your First Love and First Sight collections are nearly identical to Aura's award-winning designs. How do you explain that? I looked at her smug face and raised an eyebrow. Has it ever occurred to you that I might be Aura? That's ridiculous, she shot back. Aura is a recluse. He's never made a public appearance. I found her certainty amusing. And what if I can prove that I am? A man in the crowd snorted. The great Aura has never shown his face. How could you possibly prove it? You're not him. I just shook my head, reached into my pocket, and pulled out a solid gold pen, encrusted with diamonds. Someone in the crowd recognized it and gasped. That's the grand prize trophy from the international design competition. He really is Aura. Someone else moved closer to get a better look. The official seal of the competition was engraved on the side. My God, he really is Aura. I ignored the gasps from the crowd and turned back to the man who had challenged me. So, do you still want to accuse me of plagiarism? The man's face went white. I kept a polite smile on my face. I hope that next time, you'll have some actual evidence before you make such accusations. The reporters were in a frenzy. The reclusive international art master was me, working for the Sullivan Group. This was an even bigger story than the plagiarism scandal. I changed the subject. This collection is designed for couples. The men's piece, First Sight, represents love at first sight. The women's piece, First Love, represents a love that grows over time. A beautiful sentiment. The press conference was a resounding success. That night, the entire collection sold out again. The next day, the Royal College of Art in London issued an official statement. congratulating the Sullivan Group on their successful launch and praising the work of their distinguished alumnus. The name of that alumnus was Ethan Hayes. It was the first time the true identity of the artist Aura had ever been revealed, and it came with an official endorsement from one of the most prestigious art schools in the world. Twitter went into a meltdown. I can't believe I hesitated. I actually doubted him. It's a real Aura design and I didn't get one. I hate myself. Same. I need one. Sullivan Group, please release more. My wife says she'll divorce me if I don't get her one. OMG, my husband Ethan is a genius artist too. I love him. Forget the Sullivan sisters. Choose me. I scrolled through my DMs, got annoyed, and just deleted the app. Watching the news, even Chloe was stunned. She truly never would have guessed that I was Aura. All the other strange things about me, she could somehow rationalize. First Xylo and now Aura. This man was a complete and utter mystery. We finished up at the office late and didn't get home until after 1 in the morning. We had both been too busy to eat, and my stomach was rumbling. Chloe, I'm going to make some noodles. Do you want a bowl? She hesitated for a second, then nodded. A few minutes later, I came back with 2 steaming bowls of noodles, each topped with a fried egg. She looked at the simple meal, took a bite, and a look of surprise crossed her face. It was actually good. I didn't know you could cook, she said. I puffed out my chest proudly. There's a lot you don't know about me. Suddenly, her tone shifted, becoming more serious. Ethan, just how many other secret identities do you have? I was taken aback for a second, then I laughed. Chloe, be honest. You're starting to like me, aren't you? You've been paying an awful lot of attention to me lately. It was too dark to see her expression, but I could hear the embarrassment in her voice. I'm just curious. She was curious, but it was more than that. She wanted to know everything. This man had a strange magnetism that pulled her in. My heart skipped a beat, and my smile widened. What's this? The great Miss Sullivan is finally taking an interest in me? Want to know what other secrets I'm hiding? This time, she didn't blush or get angry at my teasing. She just looked at me, her expression serious. After a moment, she said quietly, Ethan, you're not a simple man. Did you really come to our family just to honor your father's last wish? Her question was like a needle, piercing the casual facade I had carefully constructed. My smile faded, and for the first time, I let her see a glimpse of the real me. Yes, I said seriously. And no. Yes, because my father's wish was a promise I had to keep. And no, because coming here, meeting her, that had changed everything. I saw the question in her eyes, and I was about to explain when my phone rang, shattering the moment. It was an unknown number with an international country code. I frowned and answered, Ethan, it's me. The voice on the other end was soft and achingly familiar. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. It was a voice I had heard 1,000 times in my dreams, the same voice I'd heard from the mysterious woman at Jesse's concert. Mom! The word escaped my lips in a choked whisper. Chloe's eyes widened. She had clearly heard me. It's me, my son, the voice on the phone said, thick with emotion. I'm back. There are things I need to tell you in person. Meet me tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, at the Serene Cup Tea House on the south side. The line went dead, but I just stood there, stunned. My mother, she was alive. It was something I had suspected, something Grace had hinted at, but I had never dared to truly believe it. And now it was real. Chloe began, her voice hesitant. Your mother. I just nodded, my emotions a tangled mess. I looked at her and gave a weak, wry smile. It looks like I have even more secrets than you thought. Maybe tomorrow, I'll finally get some answers. The next day, I went to the Serene Cup alone. When I opened the door to the private room, a breathtakingly beautiful woman was standing there. She looked almost untouched by time, but her eyes held a universe of sadness and longing. It was her, the woman from the concert. Mom, I said, my voice hoarse. Evelyn Hayes, my mother, reached out and gently touched my face. You're all grown up. You're even more handsome than your father was. We sat down, and she poured me a cup of tea, then began to tell me a secret that had been buried for nearly 20 years. My mother, it turned out, was not who I thought she was. She was born into a powerful and secretive old family, the Ashworths. She and my father had fallen in love, but her family had forbidden it, intending for her to marry into another powerful dynasty. She and my father ran away together, hoping for a simple life, but a rival faction within her own family, led by her uncle, tried to have us all killed to secure their own power. That accident that crippled your father's leg, it was no accident. I had to fake my own death to escape, she said, her eyes welling with tears. If I had stayed, they would have never stopped hunting you. So I went abroad and built Azure Holdings from the ground up to create a fortress to protect you and your father, and to find the truth. I finally understood why Grace was so loyal, why Azure Holdings always had my back. It was all my mother, pulling the strings from behind the scenes. That Aiden Carter, she said, her voice turning sharp. His recent activities have me concerned. I've discovered that his family has ties to my uncle's faction. The incident at Serpent's Pass, I looked into it. He bribed the mechanic to sabotage your car. My blood ran cold. It was him. Mom, don't worry, I said, looking her in the eye. I'll handle it. Now that you're back, you're not leaving again. She nodded, a look of relief on her face. Of course not. I came back to protect my family. After leaving the tea house, I had Grace send me the complete file on Aiden, including the bank transfers and recorded calls with the mechanic. That evening, the atmosphere in the Sullivan living room was tense. Aiden happened to be there, chatting with Mrs. Sullivan. I tossed a manila folder onto the coffee table in front of them. What's this? Mr. Sullivan asked, frowning. A little gift from Aiden, I said, my eyes fixed on his pale, terrified face. I thought everyone should see it. Chloe opened the folder, and as she read, her beautiful face became a mask of cold fury. Lily leaped to her feet, pointing a trembling finger at him. Aiden, you bastard! You tried to kill my brother and my sister. Mrs. Sullivan stared at him in disbelief, her lips trembling. Aiden, is this true? The evidence was undeniable. The mask of civility was finally stripped away, revealing the ugly, resentful person underneath. So what if it is? He snarled. If it wasn't for you, Ethan, Chloe would still love me. I should have been a part of this family. You Hick, you stole everything from me. Get him out of my house. Mr. Sullivan roared. The bodyguards dragged a struggling Aiden out. At the door, he turned and gave me a look of pure, venomous hatred. I knew this wasn't over. A desperate man is a dangerous man. Sure enough, 2 days later, I got a phone call that made my blood run cold. It was Aiden. Ethan Hayes, you want Chloe to live? Come to the abandoned factory on the edge of town. Come alone. No cops, no one. Or you can come and collect her body. In the background, I could hear Chloe's muffled cry of pain. My heart seized in my chest, and a white-hot rage surged through me. I forced myself to stay calm. I hung up and immediately dialed another number. Mom, they made their move. A silent war had begun. I didn't listen to Aiden's warning. The first thing I did was tell the entire Sullivan family what had happened. And in that moment, I saw them come together like never before. Mr. Sullivan used his connections to lock down the media and clear a path for us. Laura dropped everything, using her vast business network to pinpoint several key locations associated with the rival family faction. Jessie used her celebrity status to create a diversion, posting on Twitter that she was scouting locations for a new music video, sending the press on a wild goose chase. Sarah had a top surgical team on standby at her hospital. But the biggest surprise was Lily. She sat with a laptop, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Brother-in-law, she said, I've hacked the city's traffic grid and tracked their vehicle to abandoned factory number 3 on the edge of town. I've also jammed all cell signals in that area. They're cut off. I looked at the girl who had once called me a hick, and a wave of warmth washed over me. Good work. I wasn't going in alone. My mother's top security team from Azure was already with me. We moved on the factory like ghosts. Inside, Chloe was tied to a chair. Aiden stood next to a man with cold, dead eyes, an enforcer from the rival family. Ethan Hayes, you finally came, Aiden said with a crazed laugh. Tell me where your mother is, and sign over Azure Holdings, and I'll let her go. I walked toward them, my expression unervingly calm. You think you're in a position to make demands? Before the words were even out of my mouth, my team moved in. The factory erupted in a flurry of motion and violence. I went straight for Chloe, cutting her ropes. Are you okay? I asked, pulling her behind me, my voice trembling slightly. She shook her head, her eyes fixed on my back, her expression a mixture of fear and a strange new resolve. Ethan, she said, be careful. Aiden, seeing he was losing, pulled a knife and lunged at me like a madman. I sidestepped his attack and sent him flying with a kick. The other man was quickly subdued by my team. Just then, the police, alerted by Lily, swarmed the building, arresting everyone. When the dust settled, Carter Corp was bankrupted by a mountain of charges, from corporate espionage to embezzlement. Aiden himself was sentenced to life in prison for kidnapping and attempted murder. The crisis was over, and life at the Sullivan mansion returned to normal, but some things had changed forever. Laura and Chloe were no longer at odds. Their relationship was warmer than it had ever been. Sarah realized that family was more important than wealth and started dedicating more of her time to a free clinic. And Jesse and Lily became my biggest and most vocal supporters. One sunny afternoon, Chloe and I were walking along the beach. "Thank you," she said suddenly. "For what?" I asked, smiling. "Thank you for coming into our lives. And thank you for saving me." She turned to look at me, and her eyes, usually so cool and distant, were now shining with a soft, warm light. "Ethan," she said quietly, "I think I'm in love with you." I froze, and then a wave of pure joy washed over me. I took her hand and brought it to my lips, kissing it gently. "What a coincidence, Chloe," I said. "Me too." 6 months later, we were married on a private island. The sky was a brilliant blue, the sand a perfect white. My mother, Evelyn, sat with Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan, all of them beaming with happiness. The 4 bridesmaids, Laura, Jessie, Sarah, and Lily, were all stunning. I stood at the end of the aisle, watching as Mr. Sullivan walked Chloe toward me. In her white dress, she looked like an angel. Mr. Sullivan placed her hand in mine. I slipped the ring I had designed for her, a ring called Eternity, onto her finger, and then, in front of all our family and friends, I kissed my bride. "Chloe," I whispered, "from this day forward, you are my home." She rose up on her toes and whispered back in my ear, "And you, Ethan, are my world."